Today is my 1-year wedding anniversary with Martin Liu. 2 months ago, he went abroad on a business trip. Despite the time difference, he still made sure to call me at 8 a.m. this morning, saying he had bought my favorite flowers and asked me to pick him up at the airport tonight. Sure enough, just as I hung up the phone, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. The delivery guy was beaming. "Madam, happy anniversary to you and your husband. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness." In his hands were 9 white roses. I accepted the flowers with a smile. "Thank you." After closing the door, I placed the flowers into a vase and gently stroked the petals. The truth is, I don't like white roses. White roses are delicate and wither easily. White roses are my sister Jenny's favorite flowers. And for the past year, that name belonged to me. My phone on the table kept ringing nonstop. It was a number I'd never saved but knew by heart. A number I had used for 10 years. The caller was clearly impatient. Finally, on the 3rd ring, I declined the call and sent a message. On my way. I put on my coat and left the compound. This was the most upscale neighborhood in H City, with high-precision facial recognition at the gate. The security guards knew every resident. One of them greeted me with a smile. "Heading out, Mrs. Liu?" I smiled and nodded. After turning a few corners, I saw a white sedan covered in mud parked at the intersection. Opening the passenger door, I was hit by a pungent smell of smoke. "Stop smoking," I said as I sat down. Rolling down the window. "Martin doesn't like the smell of cigarettes." The person in the driver's seat turned her head. "Why didn't you answer my calls?" I paused. "Martin had flowers delivered this morning when you called. I was talking to the delivery guy at the door." "Oh." She stubbed out the cigarette. "What kind of flowers?" I hesitated for a moment. "White roses." She suddenly laughed. "He still remembers I like white roses." "Huh?" Then she turned to look at me. "Julie, honestly, you really missed your calling not going to film school after dropping out." She opened her window to get some air. "Once we're back to our original roles, you should go back to school. I'll give you money, get some cosmetic work done. Enroll in a performing arts program. Who knows? Maybe you'll become a big star someday. That's better than waiting tables like you used to, right?" "Forget it," I said softly. "The entertainment industry is too murky." She burst out laughing. "So what if it is? You used to wait tables by day and sell drinks in a KTV by night. Didn't the customers grope you all the time? If you became a star," she grinned, "maybe some rich bachelor would take a fancy to you and keep you in a golden cage. Isn't that better than before?" I looked at her in disbelief. She paused, coughed a few times, then made a funny face. "Geez, I'm just kidding. Why so serious?" As she started the car, she muttered, "You weren't like this before. I used to joke even worse, and you'd still laugh along. Have you gotten too into playing my part this past year and forgotten who you really are?" "Maybe," I said as I turned to look at the face identical to mine. "Sis, that's right." The person sitting next to me was my twin sister, a sister whose existence I hadn't even known about 2 years ago. I was raised by my father alone. According to him, my biological mother had an affair not long after giving birth to me. She quickly divorced him and married a wealthy businessman who had come to our town. Whenever my father talked about my mother, he'd fly into a rage. He was very handsome when he was young, well known as the local heartthrob. Back in his factory days, many women supposedly chased after him, but my mother's betrayal was a lifelong humiliation for him. Back then, in a small town, cheating was something everyone would soon know about. My mother moved to the businessman's city, while my father became the subject of local gossip. People embellished the details of how he caught her cheating, retelling the story so often that eventually, even he stopped trying to hide it. Once, a co-worker mocked him publicly, saying, "You're a eunuch. That's why your wife left." He couldn't take it and beat the man up. He not only had to pay medical bills but also got fired from the factory. After losing his job, he became more despondent, drinking, gambling, letting himself go. Every time he got drunk, he'd grab my hand and curse the mother I'd never met. But he never hit me. Drunk, he'd always say, "Julie, my daughter, thank God you look like me." There was a time he had a new girlfriend. For a while, he seemed to pick himself back up and even got a construction job. I was in my 2nd year of high school then. attending classes during the day and working in a restaurant at night to help pay off his debts. When I heard he got a job, I was happy. He told me his new girlfriend was honest and hardworking, and once he married her, I could focus on school and stop working. But a few months later, there was an accident at the construction site. A worker died, and when he and others went to confront the contractor and developer, a violent clash broke out. He hit someone again, this time more seriously. He lost his job once more and ended up in the police station. I was still in high school when I got the call and rushed to the station, only to find his girlfriend yelling at him at the top of her lungs. I didn't know what had happened, just heard her cursing at him, calling him a liar. "Didn't you say you'd buy me a gold ring? How can you get married with no money? You shameless bastard." After that night, she cut all ties with him, completely and cleanly. From then on, he went right back to gambling and drinking. Years of excessive alcohol and irregular meals made him gain weight. His hair turned increasingly gray, and his once handsome face sagged and lost all trace of its former glory. When I was in my final year of high school, he got into another fight. This time, he didn't come out on top. I rushed to the hospital to find him unconscious on a bed. From that moment on, he never left the hospital again. Debt collectors came to our door. I trembled in the kitchen, clutching a kitchen knife in fear. It was the auntie next door who finally called the police, and only then did those people leave. My father lay in the hospital, needing constant care. The daily medical expenses and the ever-growing pile of debt forced me to make a decision. I dropped out of school. After leaving school, I took care of my father during the day and continued working at the restaurant at night. On my 20th birthday, Gloria, who used to work at the restaurant with me, found me and shoved a business card into my hand. With her makeup perfectly done, she said, "Julie, you're too pretty to waste away like this." I truly had no money left then. The mountain of debt left me with no way out. So I went to work at that KTV. I never dared attend any high school reunions. I had gone to an elite class in a top high school. Most of my classmates were already at prestigious universities. While I was selling drinks in a KTV, I figured maybe this was just my fate. Until Jenny showed up. That night after work, she stopped me at the KTV entrance. "You're Julie?" The moment she spoke, I froze. She took off her sunglasses and gave me a bright smile. "Hi, I'm your twin sister, Jenny." I stared blankly at the identical face in front of me. According to her, she hadn't known about me either until recently, when she came across a photo our mother had hidden away. Only then did she realize she had a twin sister. The back of the photo had the name of a local photo studio, so she secretly came looking. She was decked out in designer brands, her hair styled to perfection, with a cool biker boyfriend in tow. She said she wanted to see our father, so I took her to the hospital. "You're living such a hard life," she said tearfully by the hospital bed. "Julie, we're sisters. I'll help you." She secretly paid a full year's worth of care fees for our father, hired a professional caregiver, and cleared our debts. She told me to quit the KTV job. She took me traveling, bought me clothes, took me to beauty treatments, dined at fancy restaurants, and taught me etiquette and manners. When I was with her, people treated me with respect. I was no longer the country girl from a small town or the smiling drink seller at a KTV. At first, I didn't want to accept all this kindness, but she said it was to make up for what our mother owed me. "You've had such a hard life all these years. I think if Mom knew, she'd want to do all this too. Don't worry." She winked. "I have plenty of money. Dad and Mom don't care what I do." The dad she spoke of was her stepfather, Justin, one of H City's richest businessmen. Maybe because aside from my father, I'd never experienced real family affection. I cherished Jenny deeply. I was moved, and more than a little attached to her. Once, while we were playing by a pool, a group of people accidentally shoved me into the water. I couldn't swim, she couldn't either, but she grabbed a float and jumped in to save me. In the end, she couldn't hold the float properly, and we both choked on the water. Afterwards, I asked her why she jumped in when she clearly couldn't swim. She just laughed. "Silly. I'm your sister." She brought me to H City and asked, "Do you want to meet Mom?" I said yes. She dressed me in her everyday clothes, and I pretended to be her to meet the mother I hadn't seen in 23 years. Our mother didn't notice I wasn't Jenny. That night, Jenny seemed unusually giddy. She pulled me and her boyfriend Oliver out for drinks. I got drunk and, in a haze, heard her say, "See? I told you, even Mom can't tell. Who else would?" She said, "Oliver, even the heavens are helping us." After staying in H City for a while, I discovered Jenny's secret. She seemed to have another boyfriend. It was Martin. I saw him waiting downstairs at Jenny's apartment, holding a large bouquet of white roses. Her room was filled with gifts from him, lipsticks, necklaces, handbags, all luxury brands. But she never even looked at them. I couldn't understand why she would do this. When I asked her, she stayed silent for a long time, her eyes reddening. "Julie, I really don't know what to do." She said Martin was someone her stepfather had arranged for her to marry as part of a business alliance. And Oliver, the motorcycle-riding, unemployed painter, was her true love. I know Martin is amazing. He told me he fell for me the first time we met. He's truly a wonderful person, flawless, like a perfect dream guy, but I just love Oliver. Her tears streamed down. "Julie, what should I do?" Flustered, I tried wiping her tears. "Can't you just not marry Martin?" "How could I?" She shook her head. "It's already set in stone. The whole of H City knows about it. This isn't just about me. If I run away, Mom will get dragged into it too, and Dad will definitely come after Oliver and kill him. He's an artist. Julie, he's meant to become a great one someday. I can't drag him down." She pulled out a bottle of pills. "Actually, before I found you, I had already been on antidepressants for more than half a year. I've been in so much pain. I even thought about ending it all." "Julie," she looked at me with tear-filled eyes. "I'm pregnant. The baby is Oliver's." I was shocked. "What did you say?" "Julie." She held my hand. "Can you do me a favor?" That day, Oliver drove us into a tree, staging a fake car accident. When I woke up in the hospital, I had become the amnesiac Jenny. Martin held my hand and gently said, "Jenny, don't be afraid. It's okay if you can't remember anything. I'm here." For the next 3 months after leaving the hospital, I replaced Jenny and went on dates with Martin. I still remember our first proper date. His eyes lit up with delight. He said, "You didn't make me wait half an hour today. That's a first." Startled, I forced a smile and mimicked Jenny's tone. "Really? Maybe I was quicker changing clothes today." He looked me over. You forgot to wear gloves today." My heart pounded wildly. I started to regret agreeing to Jenny's plan, no matter how alike we looked. This was her boyfriend. Maybe it was easy to fool people in a hospital, but on a real date, wouldn't he notice I was a fraud? I was panicking, searching for something to say, when he reached out, gently took my hand into his warm palm. "There, now they won't be cold." No one, especially no man, had ever treated me with such tenderness. I stared at him blankly, momentarily forgetting I was supposed to be acting. He smiled and brushed a lock of hair from my face. "What are you spacing out for? Why do I feel like you're looking at me a little differently today, little princess?" And just like that, after 3 months of dating Martin, I, under Jenny's identity, married him. It was a flawless business marriage. The Sue and Lou families both got what they wanted and were very satisfied. I became Mrs. Lou, moving into his upscale apartment in H City. But Jenny lost her baby one day, riding on the back of Oliver's motorcycle, racing against others in excitement. She miscarried shortly after getting off. Even so, she still loved Oliver and used my identity, Julia, to leave H City and go with him to another city. This whole year, I played my role perfectly. No one ever suspected that I wasn't the real Jenny. Sometimes, even I felt I had gone too deep into the role. A sudden slam of the brakes snapped me out of my thoughts. "Oliver, have you been in touch with him recently?" I asked softly. "Don't mention him. He's a liar." She laughed bitterly at herself. Turns out Mom was right all along. Love without material foundation doesn't last. And I didn't believe her. What a fool I was. At the traffic light, she turned to me. "Julie, it took me a year to realize how good Martin really is. Thank God I had you. Thank God you were there to hold on to him for me. You really do have a good habit. Keeping a diary," she said as she pulled the car over and handed me my journal. "Otherwise, I'd have to pull the amnesia act again. That would be way too melodramatic." I ran my hand over the diary. Martin had given it to me on our wedding day. You memorized it all? She waved it off. Of course I did. Don't worry, he couldn't tell you two apart back then. He won't notice me now. Besides, he's always off on business trips. You two rarely see each other. And this time he's been away for 2 whole months. Even if there are small differences, how could he notice? It was true. Over the past month, she had cut her hair to match mine exactly and even dragged me back to that same beauty clinic. Inch by inch, we compared skin, tone, body shape, making sure we were identical in every way. She pulled out a lipstick and dabbed some on, then turned to me suddenly. Oh right, you still mostly wear my shades 96 and 32, right? I paused, then nodded gently. She smiled and reached out her hand. Come on, time to swap back phones and car keys. Martin's coming home tonight. It's the official handover. You stay here for now. If everything goes smoothly, I'll arrange for your cosmetic surgery in 3 months. I hesitated, then pulled out my phone and keys and handed them over. Martin, I paused. His stomach isn't great. If he comes home late from work, make sure to cook him some plain porridge. I know. She replied with a grin. You've said that like 5 times. Relax. I won't slip up. She winked at me and blew a kiss. When it comes to acting, us sisters are top tier, right? And so, I officially switched back with Jenny, moving into the apartment she'd rented a month prior. For now, stay in as much as possible. If you must go out, wear a wig and sunglasses. If someone sees you, it could be a real mess. I nodded. I won't contact you unless it's urgent. And you shouldn't reach out either. Order food delivery as much as possible. Keep your phone on 24/7. If I call, you pick up right away. If something unexpected happens with Martin and I get caught off guard, I'll need you to fill me in. I turned to look at her as she spoke while fussing with her hair in the mirror. Got it. Martin's flight was landing at 8 p.m. At 7:45. Driven by impulse, I went downstairs and hailed a cab to the airport. I didn't even know what I was doing, wearing a wig and sunglasses. I stood a few meters away from Jenny, watching her stand there with a mix of excitement and anticipation. Jenny! I froze. Instinctively, I looked over. Martin was pushing a suitcase, smiling broadly as he walked toward Jenny. He looked slightly tanned from the trip, with a trace of lingering fatigue on his face. Martin! Jenny lit up with a radiant smile and threw her arms around his neck. Martin, for some reason, paused for a second but quickly lifted his arms and hugged her tightly. I wasn't far away. I could even hear his warm, teasing voice. You missed me, didn't you? His assistant stood to the side and nodded at Jenny. Ma'am, Mr. Lou pushed ahead his schedule by a week just to be home in time for your anniversary. I watched them walk off hand in hand. Martin bent down now and then to whisper something in Jenny's ear, making her laugh up at him. To anyone watching, they were the perfect loving couple. I stood alone in the airport for a long time. About an hour and a half later, I finally walked out and flagged another cab to Yun Palace Complex. Alrighty. The driver was an older local man. Young lady, you live in Yun Palace? That's where all the rich folks are. I smiled faintly. A friend's place. When the car stopped at the entrance, the driver was about to end the fare when I stopped him. Sir, I'll give you an extra 100. Just keep the meter running and wait for 15 minutes. Okay? I need to head to another complex afterwards. The driver looked at me, puzzled. Young lady, what's going on? What was going on? I smiled bitterly. I didn't know either. After waiting for about 10 minutes, I really did see that familiar Maybach slowly pull up to the entrance. But the car didn't head into the underground garage. It stopped right outside the gate. Martin stepped out, gently supporting a slightly tipsy Jenny in his arms. They had probably just come back from dinner. He opened the trunk. Golden light instantly lit up half of the small road. I rolled down the car window, leaned slightly out, and looked over. Under the golden glow, the trunk was filled with white roses. Martin's voice drifted in with the wind. 9 in the morning, 990 in the car. That makes 999 in total. Happy anniversary. Honey! Happy anniversary! Jenny looked up and kissed him with a smile. I pulled my head back in and rolled the window back up. This afternoon, Jenny praised my acting. And in that moment, I suddenly realized she was the one whose acting was truly flawless. Or maybe she never needed to act at all. Martin liked her just the way she was. It was me, for over a year, who had been acting as her. What was I even hoping for? Martin liked her to begin with. Isn't it normal that he couldn't see through it? I was merely a shadow of Jenny. Just like how, despite 2 cars being on the road, no one noticed there was still a taxi parked here. The assistant drove the car into the underground garage, and Martin wrapped his arm around Jenny as they walked toward the entrance of the complex. Driver, I said. Let's go. The taxi slowly started up. The driver glanced at me cautiously through the rearview mirror. Miss, was that your ex-boyfriend? Let me tell you, scumbags like that are everywhere. Don't hang yourself on one tree. I made a quiet sound in response and touched my face, only to find it soaked with tears. Identity not recognized. As we passed the gate, a loud mechanical female voice suddenly rang out. The security guard quickly came out of the booth. Sorry, Mrs. Liu, the machine must be acting up. I'll open it manually for you. I looked in the direction of the voice and saw only 2 blurry figures holding each other. After staying in that small rental room for about a week, I called the caregiver to ask about my father's condition. I didn't use the phone Jenny returned to me back when we switched phones. I had actually kept another one, the one with my father's old number. I used that number for many of my personal affairs. My father was doing well, but still showed no sign of waking up. 2 days later, Jenny suddenly reached out to me. I was waiting for her at that same intersection in the white car. Soon enough, the passenger door opened and she got in. What's wrong? She paused, then said after a while, I forgot to ask you something before. Just wanted to know, how often did you two, have sex? I hesitated. Martin was always on business trips. It wasn't very regular. I never really kept track. So you did, though? I nodded. Well, that's a relief. She laughed drily. I thought maybe he was sick or something. What? She lit a cigarette and slowly exhaled a ring of smoke. It's been a week. He hasn't touched me at all. I thought at least on our anniversary something would happen. But nothing, and it's been the same every night since. I was silent. Maybe he's still jet-lagged? Probably just tired. That's pretty normal. But really, it wasn't normal at all. Whenever Martin came back from a trip, unless there was something urgent at work, he'd spend the whole week with me. He was strong in that way, but always gentle. But all that, I no longer wished to share with Jenny. Maybe deep down, it was only in those moments, when I was truly in his arms, that I could just be Julia, no longer hiding behind Jenny's skin. I could laugh if I wanted, cry if I needed. Maybe. She stubbed out her cigarette, irritated, and tossed it out the window. Do you think he's cheating on me? You were good at pleasing men, right? Don't tell me you trained him so well he found someone overseas after just a year. I just sold drinks in a KTV. I said softly. I never did that kind of thing. All right. Same difference. She waved me off. It's boring at home. Martin barely talks when he comes back at night, just reads or works. I'm new back, so I'm scared that saying too much might make him suspicious. She glanced at me. You cut ties with almost all my old friends this past year. It'd be weird for me to suddenly reach out again. I think I'll go stay at my parents' for a couple of days, give him some space, and see my mom and dad. She got out of the car with a few heavy steps, and I stayed sitting inside for a long time. A few days later, a new dessert shop opened below my rental place. It was a Judge Desserts under the Liu Group. The name was something Martin and I came up with together. He originally asked if I wanted to call it Ai Ching. I laughed. Ai Ching sounds like beloved minister, like an emperor calling his courtier. He nodded. It kind of does. Then he pulled me into his arms. But I wanted your name in it. Looking into his beautiful eyes, a tiny bit of selfishness sparked inside me. Juje. I bit my lip. How about Judge? Martin paused. Juje? I nodded. All right. He stroked my head. Whatever name my wife picks, that's the name we'll use. I walked into the Judge Desserts shop downstairs and ordered a small cake. Just as I sat down, the shop door opened, and in came a group of people with a flurry of movement. Grand opening today, Mr. Liu himself has come to greet the new staff. The fork in my hand fell to the table with a loud clatter. You really have a habit of keeping a diary," she said as she stopped the car and handed the notebook back to me. "If not, we might have had to stage another amnesia plot. That'd be way too ridiculous." I held the journal in my hands. Martin had given it to me on our wedding day. "You memorized it all?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Of course I did. Don't worry. If he couldn't tell you two apart back then, he won't notice me now. Besides, he's always traveling for work. This time he's been gone for 2 whole months. Even if something's slightly off, how would he know?" It was true. Over the past month, she'd cut her hair to match mine exactly. Even dragged me back to the same beauty salon. Inch by inch, we compared our skin tones, facial structure, body shape, everything, to ensure she was an exact replica. She took out a lipstick and dabbed it on, then turned to me suddenly. "Oh, almost forgot, your usual colors are still my shades 96 and 32, right?" I paused for a second, then softly replied, She smiled and held out her hand. "Come on. Time to swap back our phones and car keys. Martin's coming back tonight. It's time for the official switch. You stay here for now. If all goes well, I'll have someone take you for plastic surgery in 3 months." I hesitated, then pulled out the phone and car key and handed them to her. "Martin," I paused. "His stomach's not great. If he works late, remember to cook him some plain porridge." I know," she said with a laugh. "You've told me like 5 times. Relax. I won't screw it up." She winked and blew me a kiss. "When it comes to acting, we're both top tier, aren't we, sis?" And just like that, I officially switched back with Jenny, moving into the apartment she'd rented a month ago. "For now, try not to go out. If you have to, wear a wig and sunglasses. If someone recognizes you, it'll be a big mess." I nodded. "I won't contact you unless it's urgent. Don't call me either. Eat takeout as much as possible. Keep your phone on all day. If I call, answer immediately. If something unexpected happens with Martin and I don't know what to say, I'll need your help." I glanced at her as she spoke, casually fixing her hair in the mirror. "Got it." Martin's flight was due at 8 p.m. At 7:45, on some impulse I couldn't explain, I went downstairs and hailed a taxi to the airport. I didn't even know what I was trying to do, wearing a wig and sunglasses. I stood a few meters away from Jenny, watching her, excited and expectant, waiting. "Jenny!" I froze. Instinctively, I turned to look. Martin was pushing a suitcase, walking toward her with a bright smile. After 2 months apart, he looked slightly more tanned, with a hint of fatigue still lingering on his face. "Martin!" Jenny lit up and threw her arms around his neck. Martin paused for a second, but then wrapped his arms tightly around her. I wasn't far. I could even hear his voice, full of warmth. "You missed me, didn't you?" The assistant beside them nodded toward Jenny. "Mrs. Liu, Mr. Liu rushed his schedule to come back a week early just to spend the anniversary with you." I watched as they walked off hand in hand. Martin leaned down to whisper something, and Jenny laughed in response. To anyone watching, they were the perfect, loving couple. I stood alone in the airport for a long time. About an hour and a half later, I finally left and hailed another cab. To Yun Palace. All right. The driver was a local old man. "Young lady, you live at Yun Palace? That's where all the rich folks stay." I smiled faintly. "A friend's place." When we stopped at the gate, I stopped the driver just before he ended the fare. "Sir, I'll give you an extra 100. Just keep the meter running and wait for 15 minutes. I'll be heading to another complex after this." He looked at me, confused. "Young lady, what's going on?" What was going on? I smiled bitterly. I didn't know either. After about 10 minutes, I really did see that familiar Maybach slowly pull up to the entrance. But it didn't head into the garage, it stopped right at the gate. Martin stepped out, supporting a slightly tipsy Jenny in his arms. They'd probably just come back from dinner. I looked up and saw Martin standing by the counter, smiling warmly at the staff. "How's the workload? Adjusting okay? How's the customer flow today?" The girl at the register blushed and replied softly. "We had a lot of customers this afternoon. It's quieter now because dinner rush has passed. Almost all of today's cakes have sold out. That lady by the window bought the last serving of our signature dessert." Everyone's eyes turned toward me. Just like that, Inevitably, I met Martin's gaze. He stared for a few seconds. Stunned. Wife. A few of the executives exchanged glances, then smiled and said, Mr. Liu, seems like your wife came undercover to inspect things. You two are truly in sync. My heart was racing, but I was used to scenes like this. I stood up and gave everyone a composed smile. Martin, He walked over quickly, naturally taking my hand. Didn't you say you'd be going out with Mom the day after tomorrow? This place is pretty far. What brought you here? Were you really playing undercover boss for me? I had nothing to do tonight. I tried my best to act exactly as before. Suddenly wanted cake, so I thought I'd check out the new store. He reached up to tuck my hair behind my ear, but paused. Just for a second. Martin? Mr. Liu? He snapped out of it, then turned to the staff. You've all worked hard today. Get some rest after closing. The company will send out red packets to celebrate the new opening. Amid their cheers, he led me out and into the car. He didn't speak the whole way. The assistant hesitated. Mr. Liu, should I take Mrs. Liu home first, then drive you to the meeting? Or, tell them I'm not feeling well. Cancel tonight. I tensed immediately and grabbed his hand. Are you okay? Is it your stomach again? Did the food overseas not sit well? Or have you been drinking too much lately? He looked at me, then gripped my hand tightly. I'm fine. Let's just go home. As usual, the driver stopped at the gate. The guard saw me and rushed out. Sorry, Mrs. Liu. The facial recognition machine is still down. Access granted. Huh? The guard blinked. This machine really is acting up. I followed Martin home. As soon as we shut the door, he pinned me against it. Martin. Before I could finish, his kiss came crashing down. Wife. He murmured between kisses. I missed you so much. Tears welled in my eyes. I couldn't help but hug him back. Afterward, it was late at night. He held me in his arms, smiling. I don't even know what came over me today. Seeing you at the shop, I just lost control. Seriously, it's only been 2 or 3 days, and I'm acting like some teenager. He rubbed his brow and kissed my forehead. I don't know what's been wrong with me lately. I've had this strange feeling I can't explain. Just, something feels off. He shook his head, half joking. Maybe I'm just getting old, but it doesn't matter anymore. He pulled me tighter. I've probably just been too tired lately. After a while, I snuggled closer and murmured, Martin. My voice trembled. If I actually. But soft snores interrupted me. Martin had fallen asleep. I closed my eyes. Maybe this is fate. After some time, I quietly got out of bed and, after thinking it through, called Jenny. She arrived 2 hours later. She dragged me into the study, clearly furious. What the hell happened? I've only been gone 2 days and you've already messed things up this badly? I didn't expect to run into him at the bakery. Didn't I tell you to stay home unless it was urgent? Why did you even go out? She snapped. Do you know what kind of look the security guard gave me when I came in just now? I had to tell him I left through the side gate earlier. Sis. I looked up. I don't think this is fair, to Martin. She froze. What did you say? You're not thinking of telling him the truth, are you? Doesn't he have a right to know? How can we treat him like this? She let out a cold laugh. Is this really about him? Or about you? I paused. I know what you're thinking. You've spent a year with him. It's normal for feelings to grow. Are you thinking that if he knew the truth, he might choose you? I didn't respond. Don't be naive, my little sister. She stepped closer, gripping my shoulders. Who are we talking about? Martin, a man who tamed the Liu Group's entire board in just 1 year. If he finds out how we deceived him, you think he'll just forgive you because he's in love? You're the one who lied to him. And the Liu and Su families, do you really think they'll let this go? If Martin uses this as leverage, we're all finished. Even if you don't care about me or the Su family, what about Dad? Do you not know how expensive Dad's daily medical and nursing fees are? All that money, I got it from the Su family. If you make things difficult for them, do you really think Justin, who isn't even my biological father, will let you off the hook? Even if you don't think about yourself, can't you at least think of Dad? Lying in that hospital, can you bear all the consequences alone? What about Dad's care? Are you going to go back to the KTV and sell drinks? I bit my lip hard. Julie, listen to me. She sighed. We don't have any other path. Only if we switch back properly can things go smoothly for everyone. After a moment, I said, I'll go back. Julie. She paused. Why don't you just return to a city tomorrow? Don't stay here in H City. I'll call you if anything comes up. I answered softly. Okay. Wait. She suddenly added. Swap clothes with me before you go, including your underwear. By the time I walked out of the Yun Palace complex, it was past 1 a.m. The security guard in the booth was dozing off. Given its high-precision facial recognition entry system and full coverage security, this complex was arguably the safest in all of H City. People living here were either rich or powerful, and all had private cars, so taxis were rarely seen in the area. I walked a good 3 kilometers before finally hailing a ride from a car that had been 5 kilometers away. The driver was clearly annoyed, grumbling the whole way about how the system had forced this trip on him. When I got out, I gave him an extra 50 yuan. He looked a bit embarrassed. All right, I'm not blaming you. Just saying the system's arrangements are a bit ridiculous. Please take it. I said gently. It's late. It's tough for everyone. The next morning, I received a message from Jenny. I bought you a train ticket for 7 p.m. tonight back to a city. Train number XXX. Pack your things during the day and head out early. Don't miss it. I looked around the room. Pack my things? Besides the phone and the keys to my family home, was there anything in this room that truly belonged to me? What was there to pack? 5 minutes later, Jenny sent another message. Julie, you'll arrive in a city around 10 p.m. Be careful. Call me when you get home so I know you're safe. Don't text. Make sure it's a call. I stared at the phone screen for a full minute before replying with a single word, okay. But in the end, I never left. Just as I was about to walk out the doorbell rang. The man standing outside wore a filthy wool coat. His hair was a mess, and he stood there, slouched and reeking of alcohol. Long time no see, he said, his breath thick with booze. Oliver? I said in shock. He shoved the door open and slammed me against the wall, gripping my chin. What? Just 2 months away and you don't recognize your own husband? Oliver, I whispered. You've got the wrong person. I'm Julie. Julie? He froze, then suddenly gripped my neck. What the hell are you doing here? Where's Jenny? I live here, I coughed as he choked me. You live here? He stared at me for a long while before slowly loosening his grip, as if talking to himself. You switched back. Yes, I said, crouching down to catch my breath. We switched back. So, he mumbled, she's Martin's wife now? I said nothing. Ha 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 ha, he burst into wild laughter, then suddenly hurled a vase from the table to the floor. Shards flew everywhere, and he didn't stop, sweeping everything else off the table as well. Switched back, and what gives her the right to do that? You. He lunged forward and grabbed my shoulders. Why did you switch back with her? She wanted to switch. I said quietly, so I did. After all, none of it was really mine. You really are the world's best little sister. He sneered and tilted my chin up. Marry the guy for your sister. Now help her get rid of me too. You're so kind, why not help me figure out what I'm supposed to do now that my wife's gone? Oliver, your breakup is between the two of you. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with you? He pulled 2 marriage certificates from his pocket and shoved them in front of me. See if it has anything to do with you. I stared at the documents, stunned. You used my identity to get married? She promised she wouldn't. Heh, he let out a bitter laugh. So you still think this has nothing to do with you? Julia. From a legal standpoint, he leaned in and blew softly by my ear. You're my wife. I jerked my head away. Oliver, you know this is between you and Jenny. I have nothing to do with it. I struggled with all my might, but he tore open my collar, his hand grabbing my bare shoulder. Nothing to do with you? Jenny ran. But you're still here, aren't you? Aren't you the best at pretending to be her? You've been sleeping with Martin for the past year in her place, haven't you? If you're playing her anyway, what's the difference between sleeping with him and sleeping with me? Oliver. I was trembling all over, unable to shake him off. Please, you're drunk. Oliver, please let me go. You don't want to? He muttered, then suddenly gripped my shoulder again. Why not? Huh? Because I'm not rich like Martin? He's rich so you can sleep with him for a year. But I'm poor and you won't. He threw me to the floor, staring at his trembling right hand, voice shaking. You heartless bitch. My right hand was injured protecting you. How could you run away? How could you? I fell to my knees. A shard of glass stabbed into my palm. I gasped in pain. Oliver. Look at me. I'm not Jenny. Isn't it? He looked at me, dazed and confused. Then suddenly, he dropped to his knees and clutched me. Jenny. Jenny. I was wrong. I was wrong. I shouldn't have drunk. I shouldn't have lost my temper. I was just so devastated because I couldn't paint anymore. I was wrong. Jenny, I'll never treat you like that again. Please. Forgive me just this once. Okay? This really will be the last time. Tears streamed down my face as I let him hold me, slowly sliding down beside me. He passed out. I gently pushed him away, ignoring the pain in my palm. I found my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed Jenny. The first 2 calls were cut off, the third finally connected. But before I could speak, her angry voice came through. What's wrong with you? Didn't I say not to contact me again? Oliver's here, I said. There was a sudden silence on the other end. You and he got married under my identity. Why didn't you tell me, Jenny? Martin's voice came through the phone. Can you bring me a tie? I was stunned. I can't talk much tonight, Jenny said softly. Martin and I are headed to a charity gala. Try to keep him calm for now. I'll contact you tomorrow. Wait, before I could finish. The call ended with the beep of a busy tone. Blood from my palm dripped onto the floor. I tilted my head back, wiped away the tears, got dressed, and went to the pharmacy downstairs to buy iodine and cotton swabs. Miss, said the woman selling medicine, you should really go to the hospital. You might need a tetanus shot. I nodded. Thanks, ma'am. By the time I returned from the hospital, it was already 11 at night. Oliver was sprawled out on the floor, snoring, in a deep sleep. I thought for a moment, then went to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, locked the kitchen door, and slept leaning against the counter, holding the knife. I don't know how long I had slept when I heard the doorknob turning. Startled, I jumped up. It was already light outside. Click! The lock opened. I clutched the knife tightly, staring warily at the door. Oliver opened it and stepped in, a small piece of wire in his hand. Don't be scared, he said gently. I mean no harm. I was just worried something might have happened to you in here. I still didn't lower the knife. I drank too much last night. I'm really sorry. He paused. I cleaned up everything outside. You don't have to worry. I'm completely sober now. I won't do anything to hurt you. Do you know who I am? He nodded after a moment of silence. Julie. The living room had indeed been cleaned until it was spotless. I'm sorry. We sat across the table from each other, and he apologized again. Oliver, I said, since you're sober now, let's go get the divorce. To my surprise, he shook his head. No, why not? Julie, he sniffed. I drank too much a while ago and ended up in the hospital. That's when Jenny quietly left. I've been looking for her ever since I got out. Julie, can you help me arrange a meeting with her? I just want to see her one last time. It shouldn't have ended like this. I remembered Jenny's expression every time she mentioned Oliver and hesitated. She's Mrs. Liu now. I don't think she wants to see you. She will, he said calmly. Tell her I'll give her 7 days. If she doesn't come, I'll tell Martin everything that happened a year ago. What are you saying? He nodded. I've got nothing to lose. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. Julie, I'm sorry for the awful things I said to you last night when I was drunk. But if you help me meet with her, just once, I'll go through the divorce with you. Oliver left me his number and walked out. I waited the whole day, but Jenny never contacted me. At 6 p.m., I tried calling her several times. She didn't answer. I sent her a message. I'll be waiting at the usual spot. If you don't come, I'm going to Yun Palace Apartments. At 8 p.m., she finally arrived. We sat in the car in silence. Why didn't you tell me you used my identity to marry Oliver? She was quiet for a moment and didn't answer. I looked at her. He came to find you. Go see him. I won't see him. She said. Do you even know what kind of life I had before I came back? She lifted her head, seemingly holding back tears. Oliver's right hand is injured. He can never paint again. It happened when some thugs harassed me and he tried to protect me. They smashed his hand with a brick. In your eyes, I'm a cold-hearted woman, aren't I? She turned her head, tears falling down her cheeks. I really did want to stay with him. It didn't matter if he couldn't paint anymore. Didn't matter if he couldn't become a famous artist. I just wanted us to be together. But when I tried helping him submit job applications online, he refused every single one. All he did was stay home and drink. She kept wiping her tears as she stared out the window. Every time he got drunk, he'd curse at his right hand, call himself useless, smash things again and again, and after sobering up, he'd kneel and beg for forgiveness, saying he wouldn't drink again, wouldn't do it again. But the next day, it was the same all over again. She covered her face, sobbing. I was terrified of him like that, and I blamed myself. I thought it was my fault he ended up that way. I knew I should have stayed, but I just couldn't take it anymore. She wept into her hands, tears flowing between her fingers. I really couldn't bear it anymore. I didn't even have the courage to break up with him. So when he was in the hospital, I left him a letter. I really said everything clearly in that letter. I never thought he'd come looking. A letter said everything clearly, I said quietly. But you didn't divorce him. Was that because the marriage certificate wasn't in your name anyway? Julie, she took my right hand. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Go see him. I said. Oliver said he'd give you 7 days. If you don't show up, he's going to tell Martin everything about what happened a year ago. I really can't face him, she sobbed harder. Julie, please, help me one more time, okay? Help you with what? I turned my head away, my voice calm. Sis, what exactly do you want me to help with? Could you pretend to be me again, and stay with him for a while? Silence fell. After a while, I laughed. The corners of my eyes burned terribly. Sis, I looked at her. What do you actually take me for? She froze. Am I your sister, or just some tool you use? She fell silent, then suddenly broke down, hysterical. A tool? A tool? Is that how you see me? That I treat you like a tool? I went all the way to a city to find you, to help you pay off your debts, to cover Dad's medical expenses. I treat you like a tool? When you fell into the river, I didn't even hesitate before jumping in to save you. I treat you like a tool? I insisted you quit that KTV job and brought you to H City for a better life. As she spoke, the tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. I said nothing. Julie, she sobbed. I really have no way out. Oliver, but I'm Mrs. Liu now. I really can't see him. Please help me. Please. I'm completely out of options. Out of options. A year ago, she said she had no other way, and I helped her. Now, I didn't want to anymore. Sis, I said softly. I remember every good thing you've done for me. I turned away, but I really can't do this. Why not? She grabbed my arm and spun me around. Julie, you spent the past year pretending to be me, living with Martin. Just do it again, Oliver won't notice. It's the same thing as pretending for Martin. I can't. She raised her voice. Why can't you? You could sleep with Martin, but you can't sleep with Oliver? Because I love Martin. The words fell, and both of us went silent. I love him. Over the past year, I wasn't just pretending to be you. I looked away. I treated myself as his real wife. I truly, genuinely love him. Heh, he. She started laughing. No wonder. No wonder. She leaned back, eyes full of irony. So this is what you've been thinking all along. Were you hoping I'd never come back? That Oliver's return made you happy, didn't it? Because if I go back with him, you get to be Mrs. Liu again. She let out a mocking laugh. No wonder you agreed so quickly a year ago. You've wanted to take my place from the start, haven't you? After all, a Sioux family daughter, Mrs. Liu, that was a status you could never reach on your own. Feeding a tiger only to be devoured. Is that what this is? She laughed maniacally. This whole year, were you hoping I'd die out there? So you could be Mrs. Lou forever? I shook my head. You know, I never thought that way. She turned her head away and said nothing more. After a while, I sighed. Sis, you know better than me what kind of person Oliver is. He said he's giving you 7 days, whether or not you want to see him. That's up to you. She stared out the window for a long time. Got it. I'll figure something out myself. With that, she got out of the car. 3 days passed. I didn't hear from Jenny again, but I did get a call from the caregiver. She said my father's condition had suddenly worsened and asked if I could come back. I booked a train ticket for that very day and returned to a city. Dad wasn't doing well. That night, I didn't sleep at all, staying by his side through the night. Thankfully, the worst passed without incident. By noon the next day, his condition had stabilized. The caregiver urged me to eat and rest. As I stepped out of the hospital, someone called my name. I turned around. Gloria? It really is you. Gloria walked over with a smile. I almost didn't recognize you. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the paper in her hand. I'm pregnant. Gloria smiled. Just found out, but the doctor says the fetus isn't stable yet, so I need medication to keep it. Congratulations. I smiled softly, pausing. But are you still working over there? I quit, Gloria said with a light laugh. How could I do that job while pregnant? Besides, I don't want to anymore. I want to start over somewhere new. This place is too small, everyone knows everyone. It wouldn't be good for the child in the long run. I nodded. It's been a while. Want to grab a meal together? I hadn't slept the entire night and was honestly tired, so I shook my head. Maybe another time. It's just a quick bite. Gloria held onto my hand. I'm leaving soon. Who knows when you'll be back? If we don't take this chance, we might never see each other again. I figured I needed lunch anyway, so I nodded. All right. Something simple nearby then. Gloria took me to a restaurant near the hospital. Any private rooms? 1105. The server led us to private room 1105. As soon as the door opened, a thick cloud of cigarette smoke hit me, and I coughed a few times. When I saw the scene inside, I froze. It was a large room. A few men were lounging on the sofa, smoking. Sorry, we've got the wrong room. I quickly pulled Gloria to leave. Wait a moment. The man in the middle stood up, his tone laced with amusement. Isn't this Gloria Ann? Julie? Gloria gave my hand a gentle squeeze, then turned and smiled. Ah, President Joe. Looks like we wandered into the wrong place. Sorry for the disturbance. No need to be shy. He stepped forward a couple of paces. We're all just here to eat, right? Let's eat together. This restaurant is mine. I used to give you girls a lot of business. Now it's your turn to give me some. I turned around and smiled. Mr. Joe, we really can't today. Oh, he tilted his head. What exactly is the problem? Gloria pinched my hand, a silent signal not to go head-to-head with him. The man in front of us was Diego, a local tycoon in a city and a regular back in the old KTV days. He had one trait: he bullied the weak but bowed to those who played along. Go along with him, and he'd buy bottle after bottle. Push back even a little, and he'd flip the whole place upside down. Julie. He stepped in front of me. You left without a word back then. It really hurt. You know, fate brought us together again today. If you don't want to have dinner with me, I won't force you, but drink a glass of wine with me, and I'll let you two go. He took a drag from his cigarette and blew out a ring of smoke. How about it? He strolled back to the couch and sat down, quietly watching the two of us. I pulled out my phone, ready to call the police, but Gloria stopped me. Julie, what are you going to report? He hasn't actually done anything yet. You can't go up against him. Just drink the damn wine. Disgusting or not, just do it. Don't forget, your father is still in the hospital. You're not here all the time. Diego's a thug and a psycho. If he holds a grudge and does something to your father. I took a deep breath and stood still for a while, then finally slipped my phone back into my pocket. I turned back to Diego with a smile. All right, Mr. Joe, I'll drink this glass with you. That's more like it. He puffed on his cigarette and patted his thigh. Come sit here and drink it. I didn't move. Gloria nodded at me. I knew she was telling me to endure it. I walked over, sat down on his thigh, picked up the wine glass from the table, and said, Mr. Joe. Cheers, little princess. One of the men beside him jeered. That's not enough sincerity. Shouldn't you feed Mr. Joe the wine mouth to mouth? Diego raised his eyebrows and looked at me. I smiled. Don't make it hard for me, Mr. Joe. You know what I was like before. I only sold drinks. I never did anything else. Julie. Diego's greasy hand slid around my waist. I won't make it hard for you either. Just two options. Either feed me with your mouth, or... His hand slipped under my sweater, stroking my waist. Take off that sweater and let the guys have a look at your sexy waist. Ah, Gloria suddenly clutched her stomach and crouched down in pain. Gloria? I tried to go to her, but Diego grabbed me back. You drink this glass with me, and you can leave immediately. Julie, you know me, Diego said lowly. All I care about is saving face. You give me that in front of my guys, and I swear I'll keep my word. Julie, beads of sweat rolled down Gloria's pale face. I looked at Gloria and bit my lip. Mr. Joe, if I drink this the way you say, you'll let us go right away. Yes? Deal, he said. I took a deep breath, pulled off my sweater, and threw it to the floor. Mr. Joe, cheers. Damn, one of the men whistled. Hell of a body. Cut it out, Diego said while tapping his phone and glancing sideways at the man. This is a legit business. I forced myself to endure his hands groping up and down my body. I only hoped he would finish this drink quickly. Just then, the door burst open. Julie! The voice made me freeze. Jenny rushed in, panic on her face. Who are you people? Let go of my sister. Sister? Diego looked at her, then at me. Well, Julie, you've got a twin? Let her go, now. Hey now, girl, that's not how you should talk, said one of the men. Which eye of yours saw us force her? She's drinking with Mr. Joe of her own free will. Didn't she sit on his lap herself? Didn't she take off her own clothes? Willingly? Jenny froze, then scolded me bitterly. Julie, didn't you promise me you'd never do this again? I didn't answer her. My eyes had been on one person from the start. Martin stood by the door, cold eyes fixed on everything inside. Chaos erupted around me. I don't even know how I got off Diego's lap. Jenny was saying something beside me, but I couldn't hear a word. I bent down to pick up my sweater and coat, only for a gray wool overcoat to be draped over my shoulders. Startled, I looked up. Martin didn't look at me. He turned to Jenny instead. Take your sister. We're leaving. With that, he didn't look at me again. Jenny came to help me up, but I gently brushed her hand away. I can walk on my own. As I passed Gloria, I paused. I need to say a few words to her. Martin hesitated, then turned and walked out first. Gloria looked up at me, her face pale. You might have your reasons, I said softly, but I won't forgive you. She didn't speak. She merely turned her face away, shut her eyes, and tears silently streamed down. She once worked with me in a restaurant. She was the one who brought me to that KTV. When she introduced me to the boss, she said, Sister Kim, Julie is like my little sister. She's still young, just wants to sell some drinks to pay her dad's hospital bills. Please look after her. She taught me how to deal with difficult customers, how to protect myself, how to drink less while making customers drink more, and when to endure and when not to. When a client got handsy, she would comfort me and say, just pretend it's a stray dog rubbing against you. She worked ferociously, always telling me to drink less, yet she herself often drank until she was vomiting nonstop. Once, she drank too much with a client, ended up with alcohol poisoning, and I spent the night by her side in the hospital. That night, lying on the hospital bed, she had removed her heavy makeup and softly told me her story. It turned out she had 3 younger brothers, none of them easy to deal with. As she talked, she began to cry. Julie, if only I had a sister like you. What she didn't know was that, in that moment, I was thinking, if only I had a sister like her. When I stepped out of the private room, my headache worsened. Before moving to H City, I had spent years in a state of exhaustion. My health had never been great, though I had been doing better lately. After staying awake for over 30 hours, I couldn't hold on anymore. My vision went black, and I collapsed. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. It seemed to be a VIP suite. There was a TV, a sofa, even a private room. From the half-open door, I heard Jenny's voice. Martin, don't be prejudiced against Julie. She's a good girl. It's just that her biological father's in the hospital, and she's deep in debt. She's had a hard life. She didn't even finish high school. Last year she finally got married, but the man turned out to be a drunk, and then that incident happened. After a moment, Martin let out a long sigh. I'll go back to the hotel and bring you both something to eat. He paused. She should be fine. Hire a nurse for the night. After dinner, you should get some rest too. Martin. Jenny's voice hesitated. There's something. I don't know if I should tell you. What is it? Well, it's about Julie. She's had such a hard life, and after I found her last year, I think she started to envy me. So sometimes, she imagines she is me. She paused, then rushed to explain. But I asked the doctor, it's not a mental illness. It's more like a kind of delusional behavior, a way of escaping her hard reality. So if she says anything strange to you later, please don't blame her. Martin was quiet for a moment before saying, she's your sister. I won't blame her. Thank you, Martin. Jenny sniffled. I really do feel sorry for her. The door opened and shut. It must have been Martin leaving. I pushed myself up on my arms and looked toward the doorway. Jenny was standing there, just inside the room. We stared at each other in silence. She locked the door and walked over to sit beside my bed. Her voice was gentle. The doctor says you're fine, just exhausted. You'll stay here tonight. If there's no issue, I'll take you back to H City tomorrow. I looked at the face that was exactly the same as mine. Where's Oliver? I asked calmly. How did you handle him? She lowered her head, biting her lip. After a long pause, her voice trembled. He got drunk last night and started a fight. Someone hit him in the head with a brick. The doctor said he suffered brain damage. When he wakes up, his intelligence or memory might be affected. Silence. Sis. She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. How could you do it? I said slowly, each word heavy. He was someone you once loved. How could you bring yourself to do that? You think it was me? Tears spilled from her eyes. You wouldn't help me. He threatened me. What else was I supposed to do? Her tears poured down. What was I supposed to do? She lifted her hand to wipe them away. I told you, I really had no other choice. If you'd just agreed to go as me and calm him down, I wouldn't have had to go to our parents and tell them what happened a year ago. I had no other way. What did you say? My voice dropped. You told them everything? Yes. She wiped her tears. I told them everything. Dad said he'd clean up the mess for me. I was already grateful. He arranged for those thugs. Oliver, he brought it on himself. He got drunk and started the fight first. And me? I said softly. What are you planning to do with me? Julie, she took my hand. Don't be like this. I admit. Her tears surged again. I admit that everything today was my doing, but think about it, isn't this the best outcome? I have no right to question what Dad decides. But Julie, he originally planned to do something worse to you. It was me who begged him to stop. Mom begged him too. That's why things turned out this way. Julie, you're my real sister. We share the same blood. We have the same face. I'll protect you. I really will protect you. I just stared at her, tears sliding down my cheeks. She reached out and gently wiped them away. Julie, believe me. This really is the best ending. I set all this up so you could finally understand, life isn't a fairy tale. Even if you told Martin the truth, he still wouldn't choose you. I said nothing. She looked up, let out a long sigh, and gripped my shoulders. My silly little sister. How could you be so naive? He saw you like that today. Do you really think that even if he finds out the truth, he'll still want you? Can't you see it? No matter when it is. If he ever finds out about your past, he'll never want you. I just wanted you to see that for yourself. Stop. I said softly. Sis, please don't say any more. Julie, she hugged me tightly. Believe me, things will only get better for us from now on. I know you probably hate me for setting this up today, but I just wanted you to be able to appear in the world openly, without surgery. Without hiding in the shadows. You can come back with me to H City. Once things are settled, we'll bring Dad over too. In H City, You can get a good job. We can see each other often. You can even see Mom again. Julie. She let go, tears flowing down her face. Wouldn't that be a good thing? She asked me. Wouldn't that be a good thing? I stared at her in silence, unable to speak a word. Suddenly, the phone rang. She wiped away her tears, composed herself, and answered. Martin. Yes. Julie's awake. We're in the hospital room. She hung up and stood, dabbing her tears dry. Martin's on his way. Julie, she took a deep breath. If you want to tell him the truth, I won't stop you. But think, will he believe you? Even if he does, what then? Will he hate you for conspiring with me to deceive him? Or will he marry a woman who was just sitting half-dressed on another man's lap, feeding him wine? Once the truth is out, there's no taking it back. Martin will walk away, and the Sue family won't let you off. She turned her back to me. Believe it or not, I really do want what's best for you. After a while, a knock came at the door. Jenny went to open it. Martin stood there with a bag in hand. I looked past Jenny at Martin. He looked at me. I looked at him. We locked eyes, but neither of us said anything. Jenny glanced between us, then suddenly smiled. I just realized, you two haven't officially met yet. Julie, this is my husband Martin. You've seen his photo. Martin, this is my younger sister Julie. I glanced at Jenny. Her face wore a smile, but she was nervously wringing her fingers. I looked back at Martin. After a pause, I opened my mouth. Hello, I said softly. Brother-in-law. Jenny visibly relaxed, her tension melting away. She smiled and came over. You must be hungry. Martin brought food. Eat, then get some rest. Jenny helped me to the sofa while Martin laid out the food containers on the coffee table. Martin, did you get this from the hospital canteen? Martin shook his head. The food there isn't good. I went to a restaurant and had them make it fresh. He placed a box of stir-fried chili pork in front of me. Spicy food always gives me canker sores, but chili pork is my absolute favorite. The vivid green chilies and thin slices of meat, perfect for releasing stress when I'm feeling down. The chef had even added egg strips. Thoughtful. Just then, a pair of slender hands reached over and swapped the box for a dish of plain stir-fried loofah. It's lighter. Eat more of this, Jenny said with a smile. I nodded. The three of us ate in silence. Sis, I said quietly, once we're back in H-City, I want to find a job. Jenny froze for a second, then quickly set her chopsticks down. I'm glad to hear that. I've always hoped you'd find a proper job, but I don't have any degrees. I said softly. I've tried before. It's really hard. There are university graduates everywhere. I couldn't even get a job in our county, let alone in H-City. So I was wondering. I hesitated, then asked, would it be possible to arrange something at Sue Group? Maybe a junior clerical position or something? Well, Jenny looked unsure. I don't mind a low salary. I just want to gain some experience first. I looked at her. If it's too much trouble, never mind. I'll try finding something myself. It's not that. Jenny held my hand. It's just, with Dad's situation, and since we look identical, a lot of people at Sue Group know me. I agree. Martin suddenly spoke up. Sue Group might not be a good idea. Jenny and I both turned to look at him. Come to Lou Group instead. I was taken aback. Jenny looked equally surprised. Martin? Martin took a sip of tea, speaking casually. One of the assistants in the secretary department just resigned yesterday. Do you know basic English? I nodded. Martin. Jenny tugged at his sleeve. I know you're trying to help, but Julie didn't even finish high school. I'm afraid she won't be able to handle the work, and I don't want her to cause trouble for you. I remained quiet. The truth was, I used to be really good at English in high school. I'd even won first prize in a national competition. After dropping out, I barely had time to study and had forgotten a lot. But the year I married Martin, to maintain Jenny's persona as a wealthy heiress, I didn't work after the wedding while Martin was at the office. My way of passing time was reading. Martin owned many English books. I read them all, dictionary in hand, book by book, until I'd finished half a bookshelf. One time, I was so absorbed in reading that I didn't even notice Martin had come home. By the time I looked up from the page, he had already changed clothes and was leaning against the doorframe, smiling at me. Who knew how long he had been watching? Our eyes met. The last rays of the sunset draped over him like a veil of gold. He walked over and scooped me up into his arms with a laugh. I never thought there'd be a day when I'd have to fight my own books for my wife's attention. Sitting on the sofa with me curled in his arms, he pointed at the book in my hand. Let me see what part had you so entranced. I opened the page for him. He pointed at a line. If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving be me. He chuckled. What does that mean? My face flushed. You know what it means. Why are you asking me? He tucked my hair behind my ear with one hand and trailed kisses downward. That night, he carried my exhausted, half-asleep body to bed. Just before I drifted off, I heard him whisper in my ear, "Honey, let the more loving be me." A sharp clatter pulled me out of the memory. Jenny had accidentally knocked over a cup of water and was scrambling to clean it up. Martin handed her a few tissues and gently said, "Look at you. So careless." After tidying the table, he turned to her and said, "All right, let's leave it at that. Your sister doesn't have any work experience, and it'd be tough for her to find a job elsewhere. Her situation is unique. If you go asking others for favors, your father-in-law might not be happy either. For now, let her train at Lou Group. Only a few senior execs know you there, so it's easier for her. After a year or so, she can switch to another job. It'll be much easier then." He then turned to face me. "The work is simple, just handling emails. But since you want to work, you'll need to take it seriously. If you make mistakes, you'll be held accountable." And he paused, his tone sharpening. "Some previous work habits need to change. The atmosphere at Lou Group is upright. We don't tolerate any mess." "Martin," Jenny quickly chimed in. "Why are you being so serious? Don't scare Julie." "Julie, say something." "I understand. I'll do my best," I said after a pause. "Thank you, brother-in-law." At that moment, Jenny's phone rang. She walked to the window to answer it. "Mom." I picked up Julie. "I'll see how it goes." Okay. Martin and I ate in silence until he suddenly looked up. "What's your name?" I met his gaze. "Julia." He put down his bowl. "I'm Martin." The next day, Martin returned to H City first. I insisted on staying in a city for another week to be with my father. Jenny decided to stay too, saying she'd keep me company. She asked me to stay at the hotel with her. I declined. The house had been unoccupied for a long time, and thick layers of dust had settled everywhere. I spent the day cleaning top to bottom. In my father's room was an old, worn desk. Its legs were wrapped in cobwebs. While cleaning, I accidentally bumped the underside of the desk, and the drawer came loose with a bang. The contents spilled onto the floor, rubbing my head. I began picking them up one by one until I saw a photo album I had never seen before. Inside were photos I'd never seen. A young version of my father riding a bicycle, tall and handsome, with my mother sitting behind him, arms around his waist, smiling sweetly. My father wearing a red groom's flower, carrying my mother in traditional bridal clothes, blushing shyly. And then, two little girls, Jenny and me, each held in one parent's arms. I couldn't tell who was who, but we were both smiling happily. I closed the album and tried to return it to the drawer when an old, clipped newspaper slid out. It was from 10 years ago. The headline read, "Sioux Group of H City facing major financial crisis. Risk of bankruptcy." I didn't know why my father had kept that particular page. Perhaps it was out of spite, but the Sioux Group never actually collapsed. Instead, it rose from the ashes, growing even larger. I gently placed the clipping back into the album. Life, indeed, wasn't a fairy tale, but neither was it something one had to simply endure without change. A week later, once my father's condition had stabilized, Jenny and I boarded the high-speed train back to H City. "A city's getting better and better," she said, looking at a sign outside the window that read Internet-famous tourism festival. "With its scenery, maybe it really will become a travel hotspot someday." "Maybe," I replied. "Julie," she hesitated, turning to me. "About working at Lou Group." "It doesn't matter," I said calmly. "If you don't want me to go, I won't go." No, she quickly said. "Now that Martin has suggested it, if you refuse, it might actually make him suspicious. I mean, even if the job doesn't involve Martin directly, Just stay for about 6 months and then resign. I'll help you find another company afterward. Just be sure to avoid too much interaction with him for now, even if he hasn't suspected anything yet. We should be cautious. Okay, I said softly. Mom's coming to pick us up. She added with a smile. Julie, I'm really happy that now you can finally meet Mom openly with me. At the dinner table, our birth mother Sandra kept piling food into my bowl. You two are never allowed to mess around like this again. She wiped away tears. This past year, I was seeing Julie, but it was really you. You two scared me half to death. Your father covered for you this time. She looked at Jenny. If you dare pull something like this again, I'll break your legs. I know, Mom, but everything turned out fine. Julie and I are finally back to where we belong. Jenny stuck out her tongue. Sandra shot her a glare. Mom, it's about Oliver. You dare bring him up again? Sandra snapped. If he hadn't manipulated you, would you have done something so foolish? Your father has already said you're to stay with Martin and never see that Oliver again. If you do, you'll be in serious trouble. Stop following your sister's lead. Sandra turned to me, her tone softening. If anything happens, any difficulties you face, come to me. I'll help you. Thank you, Mom. I paused, then nodded. Halfway through the meal, Victor arrived. He was Sandra and Justin's son, my and Jenny's half-brother, and currently the head of Sue Group. Well, he said, pulling out a chair and sitting down, glancing between me and Jenny. You really do look identical. Sandra frowned and served him food. Why are you so late? What were you doing? What else? Dear mother? Victor grinned. You've got someone to spoil you. I've got a whole corporation to feed. You think I sit around all day doing nothing? Sandra didn't respond, just pushed a glass of wine toward him. Toast your second sister. Martin helped you a lot last year, and she did her fair share too. Victor lazily twirled the wine glass in his fingers. I'm telling you, Dad really messed this one up. Sure, dividing everyone up made sense. But since second sister's already been with Martin for a year, why not just let it continue? What are you trying to say? Sandra frowned. He grinned. Teasing. Ever heard of a harem? Twins. No less. One on the left, one on the right. Just imagine how thrilling that must be for dear brother-in-law. With that kind of arrangement, the Sue family's got him completely locked in. Victor. Shut up. Jenny grabbed an apple from the table and hurled it at him. Don't talk nonsense. Victor. Sandra added sternly. Victor caught the apple, still grinning like a clown. Relax. I'm just joking. You all get so worked up. He raised his glass. Thanks for everything last year, he said with a wink in my direction. Second sister. 2 days later, I reported for work at Lou Group. Secretary Chan led me to my desk. Just months ago, he had called me Mrs. Now, he called me Julie. Julie, this is your workstation. He smiled. Don't worry about your connection to Madam, Mr. Lou and a few trusted executives have all been informed. Just focus on doing your job. No one else will know. I nodded. Thank you, Secretary Chan. There are 5 people in the secretary office. You won't be reporting directly to Mr. Lou. If anything comes up, let me know. Got it. The work at Lou Group, just as Martin had said, was simple, mostly managing emails, translating some correspondence into English for the business departments. Martin was very busy. Even though we were in the same building, I rarely saw him. My role gave me access to some internal confidential communications. One day, I typed Sue Group into the search bar and stared at the screen for a long time. Friday evening, Jenny came to see me, just before the end of the workday. She arrived at the office wearing sunglasses, moving mysteriously, and pulled me into an empty meeting room. Martin told me not to come. She pouted. He said it wouldn't look good if people saw. He's probably right, but I still wanted to check in on you. How are you? Getting used to it? Has Martin asked you anything? Or said anything? I shook my head. I haven't really seen him since I started. She visibly relaxed. That's good. He's been really busy lately, working late every night. He's not in the office today either? I don't know, I said. His schedule's managed by Secretary Chan. I see. After a short silence, I asked, "Sis, did you come because there's something else?" She paused, then lowered her gaze. "Julie, I wanted to ask you for a favor. Could you go check on Oliver for me?" I froze. "You guys used my number at the hospital, didn't you?" I opened the window for some air. "Since I haven't gotten a call from the nurse, he probably hasn't woken up yet." Her eyes reddened, voice trembling, "But he's lying there all alone, no one by his side." "Julie, I'm begging you. I'm not asking you to pretend to be me. Just go see him. Just check on him for me." "All right." She came over and hugged me tightly. "Julie, thank you so much. You're off work, right?" She wiped her eyes. "Let's go eat together." I shook my head. "I can't leave yet. Purchasing has an important email to send. The recipient's in a different time zone. We won't get a reply until around 9. I need to stay." Jenny left around 7. When I returned to my desk, everyone else in the secretary office had already gone home. I was spacing out when Secretary Chan suddenly rushed in. "Has Lisa left?" I nodded. "She just left a little while ago." "Secretary Chan, is something wrong? Should I call her?" He wiped sweat from his forehead. "No need." "Julie, since you're here, Mr. Liu's dinner meeting is ending soon and his stomach's acting up. I just called the cafeteria and asked them to make some porridge. Go supervise them and bring it to his office once it's done." "Got it." When I arrived in the kitchen, the chef greeted me right away. "The porridge is already cooking." I lifted the lid and frowned. "Did you add dried shrimp?" The chef blinked. "Yeah, just a little, for nutrition." "He can't have that," I said urgently. "It has to be plain congee, half millet, half rice. Not too thick, not too watery." I hadn't said a word when the chef looked at me, distressed. "Miss Yi, I usually cook stir-fry. Everyone's already off work at this hour. Only I'm left." I really don't know what not too thick, not too thin means. I mean, how can I guess what the boss's stomach can handle? "Forget it," I said, looking at his almost crying face. "I'll do it." After remaking the porridge, I went upstairs, not seeing Secretary Chan. I assumed Martin hadn't returned yet. I knocked on the door to the president's office with the porridge in hand. To my surprise, Martin answered the door himself. His forehead was damp with a thin layer of sweat. He glanced at the porridge in my hand, then pointed to the coffee table across from his desk. "Just put it there." I followed him in and placed the porridge on the table. He sat on the sofa behind it, eyes closed, breathing slightly heavier than normal. The porridge was still hot. I ladled out a bowl and gently stirred it with a spoon. When I looked up, I realized he had opened his eyes at some point, watching me closely, startled. My hand trembled, and I was about to put the bowl down. "When I used to have stomach aches," he suddenly said, his tone light as a feather, "my wife would always feed me, one spoonful at a time." My hand froze. "Actually," he chuckled, sitting up and taking the bowl from my hands, "I was never so weak I couldn't hold a spoon." He took a sip of porridge. I just wanted her to worry about me, to feel sorry for me. The air fell silent for a few seconds, but to me, it felt like centuries. "President Liu." I stood up. "If there's nothing else, I'll leave now." He nodded. I walked straight into the bathroom, trembling uncontrollably, looking at myself in the mirror. I couldn't suppress the sting in my eyes. "Julia, you've lost the right," I told myself. "He was your husband, and you deceived him for a whole year. You don't deserve his forgiveness, let alone his love." The next morning, I got a call from the hospital. "You're Mr. Oliver's family, right? We have some forms that need a family member's signature. Can you come by before 5 p.m. "Yes." Back at the office, I happened to overhear a few colleagues chatting. The Su family, seriously, what kind of blessings did their ancestors accumulate? No kidding. If they hadn't partnered with Liu Group on those projects last year, they wouldn't have stood a chance. I heard, as I walked in, Lisa spotted me and waved. "Julie, just looking for you. The purchasing department is having a dinner gathering tonight. They invited us along. Want to come?" I smiled. "I'll pass. I've got some family stuff to take care of and need to leave early." "Oh, I see. Lisa turned to the others with a smile. The guys in procurement will be so disappointed. I looked at her in confusion. The others chuckled. Lisa winked. Those guys never treat our department to dinner. Now suddenly they're thankful? Please. It's clear what they're really after. She walked over and linked arms with me. Honestly, a few of them already asked me about you. Julie, do you have a boyfriend? I was caught off guard. I'm married, I said softly. Really? Lisa's eyes widened. I knew it. Someone else laughed. A woman like her? No way she'd still be on the market. I'm curious though. Lisa teased. What does your husband do? He must be pretty amazing to marry someone so pretty. He's a painter, I said quietly. An artist. That explains it. Bet he's super romantic. Suddenly, everyone fell silent and stood up respectfully. Looking behind me, President Liu. I turned. Martin stood at the office door. Secretary Chan behind him. He had just returned from outside. Expression unreadable. He swept a casual glance over the room before walking away. That scared me to death, Lisa said, patting her chest. Why is our luck so bad today? President Liu never comes through this hallway. He always takes the executive lift. Later, I went to Secretary Chan to request leave. This afternoon, he mused. Wait a moment. Let me check. After a while, he came back. I'm heading to that hospital this afternoon too. You just need to sign some forms, right? I'll take you. We can come back together. Saves you the trouble of getting a ride. I hesitated. Would that really be okay? He smiled. No problem. It's on my way. Plus, we've got a few urgent documents that'll need to go out later. You're the only person on the confidential post in our department, so I'm afraid you'll need to stay late tonight too. But in the end, I didn't return with him. After signing the hospital forms and preparing to leave, I got a call from the caregiver. Miss Yi, you need to come up quickly. He's awake. He's awake. Oliver had woken up, but he remembered nothing. Not who he was. Not me or Jenny's face. The nurse said. He paused, looking dazed. You're my wife. I hesitated, unsure whether to confirm it or explain what had really happened. After he fell asleep again, I found a quiet corner and called Jenny. Oliver's awake. There was a pause on the other end, then a faint, trembling voice. Is he okay? He's lost his memory. He doesn't remember anything. About half a minute of silence passed before I heard quiet sobs from the other end of the line. Holding the phone, I looked up at the sky outside the window and said nothing. I just listened to the sound of her trying, and failing, to hold back her tears. I didn't know why she was crying. Was it guilt? Was it grief over a past lover who no longer remembered her? Or was it joy at finally being able to start a new life free of burden? By the time I returned to the company, it was already 7 p.m. The afternoon's tasks had piled up. After organizing and sending out several overdue emails, 2 hours had flown by. Suddenly, I felt exhausted. The office had floor-to-ceiling windows. I lay on my desk, quietly watching the brilliant neon lights outside. I didn't know how much time had passed when I finally sat up and pulled up the Sioux Group materials I'd looked at before. What are you looking at? A cool voice sounded behind me. I jumped and turned to see Martin holding a cup of coffee, standing there silently. His face was cold, eyes gazing down at me with a probing expression. I stood up, flustered. Digging through Sioux Group's files? He stepped closer. That's not part of your job description. If you wanted to know something, you could have just asked your sister, or even Victor. Looking around my company won't get you very far. He curled his lips slightly. I forced myself to stay calm. Something crossed my mind. I was just browsing out of curiosity. He chuckled softly, sipped his coffee, then placed the cup on my desk and leaned casually against the edge, arms crossed. I'm your brother-in-law, he said. If there's anything you're curious about or want to know, you can ask me. I stared at him in surprise, then lowered my gaze to the coffee cup. Silence. After a long pause, I looked away and closed the document. It's nothing, I said, shaking my head. Nothing I need to know. I didn't look at him again, and he didn't speak further. What's this? He picked up a partially opened package from my desk. The Hannah Thomas English translation competition? He looked up. You signed up for this? I answered softly. He flipped through the materials. When did you register? 3 months ago. 3 months ago, when I was still his wife. What's your pen name? I was caught off guard. What? These contests, I've sponsored a few before, he said, sipping his coffee again. Contestants usually use pseudonyms for fairness. What's yours? I hesitated. Just a very ordinary name. Oh, he didn't press further and set the materials down. After a moment of silence, he turned to leave. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the nearly empty cup on the table. I couldn't help myself and said softly, He paused, turning to look at me. I lowered my eyes. People with stomach issues shouldn't drink coffee. Oh, his tone was casual. Who told you that? Who told me that? I froze. It was back when we'd just gotten married. Just a month in, I'd witnessed one of his stomach flare-ups. A few days later, he came home late from a dinner meeting, holding a half-finished cup of hot coffee. I took the cup from him and frowned. I heard people with bad stomachs shouldn't drink coffee. Oh, he raised an eyebrow. Who told you that? I thought for a second and squeezed out, Google. He laughed. My wife, he said as he pulled me into his arms and ruffled my hair. How can you be so adorable? Then he kissed me. The rich flavor of coffee lingered on my lips and tongue. I'd always been sensitive to coffee. I pushed him away and turned my head. Don't. I won't be able to sleep. His eyes curved into little crescent moons. He scooped me up and carried me straight to the bedroom. After that, I never saw him drink coffee again. What he didn't know was that I really had looked it up on Google. I spent a whole day researching foods good and bad for the stomach, wrote them down in the journal he had given me, and remembered them all by heart. The past and present tangled in my mind. I lowered my head and said softly, Someone else told me. Oh, he picked up the coffee again, and just as he turned, his phone rang. I saw the name Jenny flash across the screen. After taking the call, he turned to me. Your sister's coming to pick me up. Should we drop you off on the way? I paused and shook my head. No need. It's not on the way. I'll take the subway. It's convenient. He nodded and left without another word. The office was quiet. I heard the elevator ding, doors opening and then closing again. I sat in my chair for a while, then picked up my phone and sent a WeChat message to the contest staff. Tang. Sorry to bother you. Can I still change my pen name? The reply came quickly. The system doesn't allow name changes after registration. Besides, why change it? We all think MJ is a lovely name, clear and bright. Just like your translation style, and you're currently in the top 3 in voting. Changing your name now might confuse the public. I closed my eyes. My eyes stung badly. I didn't see Martin at all the following week. On Monday, around 10 a.m., I received a call from my father's nurse. Your father, he's awake. I shot to my feet, hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. He's awake? Somehow, the image of Oliver from not long ago flashed in my mind. My voice shook. Does he still remember? After all this time, would he still recognize me? Would he still remember me? But I couldn't finish the sentence. My voice faltered. He's still not fully conscious. The nurse said, but don't worry. The doctor said it would help his recovery if family talks to him. So I called you right away. Okay. I gripped the phone tightly. I'll go back right now. After hanging up, I saw in the mirror that my face was already streaked with tears. With trembling hands, I opened the ticketing app, but found that all train tickets to a city were sold out for the entire week. I froze, then shut the app and went to the restroom to calm myself before going to ask Secretary Chan for leave. Leave is no problem, but... A city? He thought for a moment. Aren't they having some kind of travel festival there? I saw a news report yesterday. Tons of influencers are fighting over train tickets. Can you even get one? I shook my head. There are no trains. I checked. There's a long-distance bus tonight. I'll take that. Buses at night aren't safe. He frowned. Julie, wait a moment. About 10 minutes later, he called me over. Go ahead. The car's waiting at the B2 parking level by the elevator. I was stunned. Secretary Chan? He smiled. Our company has always cared about employee families. Parental emergencies are serious. Can't be delayed. The company's arranged a car to take you back to a city. Is that appropriate? I hesitated. He shook his head. What's inappropriate? When I first joined, I had to rush home once too. The company sent a car for me as well. Family comes first. It's one of our company's core principles. Don't worry, just go. I was truly anxious to get back, so I didn't refuse. Thank you, Secretary Chan. I packed a few things and took the elevator to B2. The moment the doors opened, I froze. That familiar Maybach was parked at the elevator entrance, and its owner was leaning casually against it. Eyes gently closed. You're here? Hearing the sound, Martin opened his eyes and turned to open the passenger door. Get in the car. I stood there, frozen. I didn't know it was you. I clutched the strap of my bag tightly. I can take the bus. Didn't you say you needed a driver? What difference does it make whether it's me or someone else? He rested his hand on the car door, turning slightly. You're Jenny's sister, so you're half a sister to me, as your brother-in-law. Giving you a lift back home is no big deal. Still, I didn't move, but he had already come over, took the bag from my hand without waiting for a response, and headed toward the car. We set off now. We can make it before dark. I don't like driving at night. Get in, he repeated, his tone leaving no room for refusal. I bit my lip and got into the passenger seat. It was the longest 5 hours I had ever endured. Martin barely spoke the entire ride. The air inside the car felt like it had solidified, thick, heavy, suffocating. The radio played FM 121.1, the music channel Martin always tuned into when he drove. It used to be my favorite too. But today, the familiar music only made my head throb. His presence was too close, his breath, the rhythm of his driving, the silence, it all pressed in on me. I turned my head to look out the window in search of escape, but somewhere along the ride, I drifted off into a blurry sleep. When I awoke, we had already passed a service area. I sat up. A jacket slid off my lap and onto the floor. It was Martin's. You're awake. He didn't look over. His eyes remained fixed on the road. If you're hungry, there's a hamburger in the door compartment. Bought it at the last stop. Still warm. I nodded and took out the burger, only to find that every single green pepper had been picked out. We arrived in a city around 6 p.m. I looked at him quietly as he drove and said, "Thank you. We can't visit the hospital tonight. You stayed at a hotel last time. Do you want me to help you check in?" He kept his eyes on the road. After a pause, he said, "The hygiene at that hotel was terrible. I couldn't sleep all night. I'll try to find another one. That's already the best hotel in the city." He frowned, and with this tourism festival happening, we might not find any room tonight. I blinked. I hadn't considered that at all when I got in the car. Your house. He parked outside my place. It has a spare room, your father's old room, right? He turned to me, a little helpless. If you really want to thank me, let me crash for one night. I brought Martin home. I had already cleaned my father's room during my last visit. I got out fresh bedding for Martin, then went to the small market at the entrance of the neighborhood to buy him a new toiletry set. 5 hours of driving had probably exhausted him. He shut the door and went to bed early. As for me, I lay in my bed, completely drained, but no matter how tired I was, I couldn't fall asleep. The next morning, he was already up when I came out. Scattered across the table in front of him were a bunch of certificates. They were awards I had received before dropping out of high school. Sorry, he said, looking up. It got a little hot last night. I was looking for a thinner blanket in the cabinet and accidentally knocked these out. He was trying to organize them. They were probably originally arranged in chronological order. It was too dark last night, and I was too tired. I didn't realize what they were until this morning. Don't worry about it. I stepped forward and stacked the awards together. They're useless now. No need to sort them. Silence. Why did you drop out? He asked softly. I paused, adjusting the papers. Dad was in the hospital back then. He needed someone to take care of him. And we needed money. I didn't have the time or energy to study anymore, so I figured it was better to start earning. He lowered his gaze and didn't say anything. You. I paused. What do you want for breakfast? He looked up at me and said quietly, omelette with ketchup. I froze. My fingertips dug into my palm. I stammered, There's no ketchup in the house. Oh, he sounded indifferent. Then never mind. Anything's fine. I walked to the kitchen and began rinsing rice to make congee. But my mind was a mess. Omelette with ketchup, my favorite breakfast. It was also the first meal I ever cooked for Martin after we got married. It became a ritual. Every time he returned from a business trip, I'd wake up early the next day and make him an omelette with ketchup. He loved sneaking up behind me while I cooked, wrapping his arms around my waist and nuzzling into my neck. Impossible to shake off. You're not helping. Just let me cook. I'd laugh. No, he'd cling like a spoiled child. I won't. Suddenly, familiar footsteps approached from behind, drawing closer. I froze. He stopped behind me, so close I could feel the heat of his breath. My whole body stiffened. I wanted to move, but it was like I'd been turned to stone. Is there a water cup? His voice sounded behind me. I didn't see one in the living room. I shut my eyes for a moment, opened the cupboard, and handed him a cup. My hand was trembling. After breakfast, Martin drove me to the hospital. When I saw the person lying in the bed, my tears finally fell. Dad. My father was half sitting up. He reached out with trembling hands and touched my head. Julie. He opened his mouth slowly. You've grown up. I gripped his hand tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. It's all right now, he said, gently wiping away my tears with his other hand. His gaze drifted upward and landed on Martin. I wiped my tears. It's your sister, Dad. Martin stepped forward. I froze. My father did too. Good. In just a moment, a look of comfort bloomed across his face. He gripped my hand tightly. Good. This is so good. He motioned for Martin to come closer and placed Martin's hand into mine. Julie has suffered so much. Tears welled in his eyes. You must treat her well, really well. Martin nodded. Don't worry, Dad. After chatting with my father for a while longer, Martin and I walked out of the hospital room. Just now, I began. I know. He interrupted with a long sigh. Your father just woke up. I figured, since he already acknowledged his mistakes, it's better to let him think you're doing well. It'll help his recovery. Besides, he glanced down and smiled faintly. Calling him Dad isn't exactly wrong. Jenny is his daughter. After all, we'll explain things properly later. All right. I nodded. You heading back this afternoon? He looked at his watch. It's already noon. Leave tomorrow morning instead. You still have to see the doctor this afternoon, don't you? If I suddenly leave, your dad might get suspicious. I'll stay and chat with the old man a bit. If anything comes up, I can help out. By the time we left the hospital again, it was already 5 p.m. Is a city's beer really that famous? Martin asked, looking at a roadside advertisement. I followed his gaze. A city did have a brewery, but their products were only sold locally. On this trip back, I'd noticed lots of new signs, probably trying to build up the brand during the tourism festival. Martin stepped forward and bought 2 bottles. He smiled. Left in a rush last time. Didn't get to try it. Back at home, he opened one and started drinking by himself. I watched him down half the bottle in one go, hesitated, then got up and went to the kitchen. I washed some vegetables and started preparing dinner. Need help? He walked in and picked up the knife on the cutting board. I can help chop. I was about to say no when I heard him yelp. I turned around and saw a drop of blood bloom at the tip of his left index finger. Panicked. I rushed over. You don't even know how to cut vegetables. Why'd you even try? What now? My voice trembled, on the verge of tears. I don't even know if we have any band-aids in the first aid box. I let go of his hand and hurried into Dad's room to rummage for supplies. I found some band-aids, but they were long expired. With no other choice, I gently stuck one on. Should we go to the hospital for disinfection? I don't know how deep the cut is. Why are you always so surreal? I hadn't even finished the word careless when he suddenly surged forward and pressed me against the wall. I stared at him, stunned. Before I could react, he raised his uninjured hand and gripped my chin firmly. His eyes burned like fire, and his mouth was only inches from mine. I squeezed my eyes shut in fear. But just as our lips were about to meet, he stopped. Our noses touched. Our breaths mingled. I opened my eyes. We stared at each other, and I trembled all over. After a long moment, he finally let go. Sorry. He stepped back. I've had a bit to drink. Mistook you for someone else. His gaze had gone cold again, devoid of emotion. He turned to leave. I leaned weakly against the wall, watching his back as he walked away. My heart ached with every step he took. Martin. He stopped but said nothing. Don't do this anymore. I sobbed. Please, don't do this. Don't torture me like this. You know everything. So why? Why are you still being kind to me? Why aren't you asking questions? Why don't you blame me? Why don't you hate me? Why are you pretending nothing ever happened? What did you just call me? He asked, his voice low, each word distinct. Martin. I stared at his back, shaking my head as tears fell freely. He suddenly turned around and pulled me into his arms, cupping my face in both hands, staring deeply into my eyes. Julia, do you know who you're calling? I nodded, eyes closed and full of tears. Martin. Martin. He let out a long sigh, and then the kiss came, overwhelming and unrelenting. I was completely engulfed in his breath, his warmth. It felt like an explosion, a release, a long overdue surrender. I didn't know how long we stayed like that before he finally let go. With his forehead resting against mine, he asked softly, "What else?" My tears kept falling, one drop at a time. I shook my head, unable to speak. He leaned closer and began to kiss the tears off my face. His eyes reddened, staring at me. "What else?" he asked again. All the tension I'd been holding inside finally burst through in that moment. Every dam shattered. Every wall broke. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face as I looked at him, sobbing so hard I couldn't even breathe. Husband. The next morning, I woke up in Martin's arms. Last night, he had held me tightly, again and again asking me to call him that. Wife, he murmured, cupping my face gently with both hands, his voice hoarse. Did you know? I've been waiting this whole time for you to acknowledge me? Why aren't you angry with me? I cried endlessly. I lied to you. Why aren't you angry? I was angry. He pulled me into his arms with a sigh. Of course I was. Angry you didn't tell me. Angry you switched places just like that. So clean. So heartless. His hand stroked my hair. Angry at myself, too. Angry I might have given my heart to the wrong person. Angry I couldn't let you go. I thought, my voice trembled between sobs. I thought you liked her, that you always liked her, that I was just a poor imitation. March 26th, 2020. That was the day, right? I froze and looked up at him, teary-eyed. That was the day I met him for the first time, as Jenny, in the hospital. You silly girl, he pressed his forehead to mine with a soft sigh. But, I felt even more breathless, my mind dizzy. Before, you clearly liked her, didn't you? But he didn't let me finish the question. Under his fierce kiss, my thoughts scattered, my mind blanked, and I could barely even remember who I was. I didn't know how long had passed. When it was over, my body felt boneless, my eyes shut in exhaustion. Wife, his chin nuzzled my forehead. If one day you find out that I'm not such a good man either, would you still love me? I opened my teary eyes and looked at him in confusion, not understanding what he meant. Sleep, he whispered, kissing my forehead. Just sleep. And sleep I did until nearly noon. It had been a long time since I'd slept that late. I sat up, my body aching. When I checked my phone, I saw that the caregiver had called me 3 times that morning. Panicked, I quickly called back. Miss Yi, no emergency. It's just that the hospital will be closed to visitors this afternoon for sanitization. I was wondering if you were still planning to come this morning. Yes, I'm coming. I hung up and hurried to gather my clothes. Suddenly, strong arms wrapped around me from behind. I was pulled into a warm embrace. My chin gently lifted, and the startled sound I meant to make was swallowed by his kiss. After the kiss, he stroked my head. I'll drive you to the hospital first. Then go pick up lunch. What do you want to eat? I thought for a moment, looked into his eyes, and said, stir-fried pork with chili, with shredded egg. His eyes curved with a smile, and he kissed my forehead. Okay, whatever my wife wants to eat, that's what she'll get. At the hospital, the caregiver was chatting with my dad. Oh, you're truly blessed. Sir, 2 such wonderful daughters. And both so beautiful too. Last time when things got critical, they were both right here at your side. They look so alike. I can't even tell them apart. When she saw me, she stood and smiled. Miss Yi, you're here. I'll go do some laundry. I sat at my father's bedside. He reached up and touched my eyes. Why are they swollen? I smiled and held his hand. Nothing, just didn't sleep well. Your sister. I hesitated, then nodded. I saw them, sis. And mom, I saw them both. He nodded and closed his eyes with a sigh. Julie. Dad has wronged you. When I stepped out of the ward, Martin was just arriving with lunch in hand. I've confirmed with both hospitals. Since your father is already awake, the doctors in H City also suggest keeping him here in a city for further observation. Once he's stable, then we can arrange a transfer. I nodded. Okay. What is it? He asked, looking down at me. Dad, I hesitated. Told me about some things from the past. Martin took my hand and walked me to a bench in the hallway. What things? He said. He told me not to resent my birth mother too much. That when I was little, she did come back once with Jenny. But back then, Dad had just been laid off from the factory after getting into a fight. And he drank every day. So when she came back, he blamed her for everything that went wrong in his life and drove her away. She never came back after that. Back in the room, Dad had held my hand and wept as he said, Julie, I've thought about it so many times. If only I hadn't driven your mom away, you would have had a much better life. You wouldn't have had to suffer so much with me. Martin wrapped an arm around my shoulder. It's all in the past now. Love. I leaned on his shoulder. It feels strange. What feels strange? I straightened up. Isn't it too much of a coincidence? Dad got into that fight because someone provoked him, and that just happened to be when my birth mother brought Jenny back to find him again. Martin frowned slightly. You're saying, and then there's Oliver. I said. He also ended up in the hospital from a fight, just like my dad back then. I keep thinking. I just can't shake the feeling. Sue family. What? I looked up. You suspect, Martin said slowly, that your father being provoked into a fight and fired all those years ago had something to do with the Sue family? I nodded, hesitating. Am I being too paranoid? Not necessarily. He shook his head. From what I know, Justin understands human nature all too well. He's the kind of person who'll do whatever it takes to get what he wants. Are any of your father's old coworkers still around? Martin and I went to the old apartment block that used to be part of the factory housing. Many of the former employees still lived there. You mean Elias? An elderly man shook his head. Left town years ago when the factory shut down. No one's heard from him since. Martin and I exchanged a look. I sighed. As expected, too much time has passed. The man squinted at my face a few times. Wait, you're Nestor's daughter, aren't you? I blinked. Sir, you knew my father? You've got his looks. The old man chuckled. Pretty rare around here for someone to be this good-looking, just like your dad. You're looking for Elias? He narrowed his eyes. It's not about that old incident, is it? Sir, the fight between my dad and Elias. The one that got him fired. Do you know anything about it? I asked quickly. Well, he coughed, eyes darting. I suppose you could say. I do know a thing or two. Martin stepped forward and handed him a cigarette. Lighting it, then he tucked the rest of the pack into the man's pocket. The old man glanced at the brand and gave Martin a pleased nod. He exhaled a smoke ring and slowly said, Back then, that bunch. They came to me too. That bunch? Martin asked. Who were they? I don't know. Nestor's wife. Well, her running off. No one talked about it anymore by then. But one day, this guy shows up. Says he'll pay me if I can provoke Nestor into a fight. Make him lose it. I'm an honest man. I didn't want any part of that. I told him no. Maybe he thought I was just scared. So he explained that all I had to do was make Nestor throw a punch, and the factory would definitely fire him. Said I wouldn't be dragged into it. Do you remember anything about that man? I pressed. His voice, accent, clothes, age, anything? He waved a hand. This was so many years ago. I don't remember anymore. After that, I got transferred to the branch factory in the next county. Came back 2 years later and heard Nestor had been fired for fighting Elias. And Elias, well, he was always a piece of work. And then, it all made sense. Sandra really had regretted it back then. I didn't know why. But she truly had a change of heart. She brought Jenny back, probably hoping to reconcile with my father. That was when Justin staged it all. Like Martin said, he knew people too well. He knew exactly what would push my father over the edge, what would show Sandra the worst of him. So my father lashed out, made a scene, and Sandra, seeing all that, gave up hope. She turned back, returned to the Sioux family in H City with Jenny, and never came back to a city again. It really does sound like something Justin would do. Martin said once we were back at home, but even if we suspect it was him, there's no proof. My voice dropped. It's been too long. And the truth is, my father did throw that punch. What about Oliver? Martin asked. Could there be something there? Some evidence? I blinked, then remembered. The hospital had given me Oliver's phone and wallet, but I had never gotten around to looking at them. I'll check once we're back in H City, I said. Then another thought struck me. I stepped closer. Hesitant. You haven't gone home in 2 nights. Will my sister? Don't worry. He turned and pulled me into his arms. Jenny and I, nothing's happened. He paused. In fact, I think me not going back probably makes her happier. What do you mean? I didn't understand. He sighed. Do you think it's enjoyable for 2 people who don't love each other to share a roof night after night? Then he laughed softly. Think about it. Has she called me even once these past few days? Sent a single message? I stared at him, still unsure what he was implying. He sat down beside me and gently pulled me with him. The truth is, he let out a deep breath. My marriage into the Sioux family isn't quite what you think. 2 years ago, Martin began. Just after I took over Lou Group, several of our cross-border partnerships ran into serious trouble. I knew that 70% of Lou Group's business came from international trade. There was a lot of noise back then, rumors everywhere, criticism of the company, and doubts about my leadership. Several senior board members even started pushing to remove top management. I investigated thoroughly and found that Sioux Group was behind it. Sioux Group? I blinked. Why would they do that? For 2 reasons. First, they've always wanted a slice of the cross-border trade market. The best clients and resources have always been tightly held by Lou Group. Second, with Justin's health deteriorating and Victor preparing to take over, Justin wanted leverage for negotiation. I had just stepped in and made some rookie mistakes. That gave Justin an opening. During negotiations, Sioux Group proposed business cooperation and a marriage alliance. What they really wanted was to use the marriage to get half of our market share. So, you and my sister. She didn't want it, and neither did I. He shook his head and pulled me into his arms, but I didn't have a choice. Sioux Group plays dirty. If I hadn't shown enthusiasm for the marriage, they would have retaliated hard. Lou Group would have taken a massive hit. I couldn't let everything our fathers built fall apart under my watch. Sioux Group has never had limits. He went on. Years ago, when they were on the verge of bankruptcy, they manipulated a close friend of my father's, used a fake partnership to dump debt onto him. It ruined his entire family. My father never got over it. This time, when Justin targeted Lou Group, I knew I had to play along, give them some illusion of gain, and then slowly fight back. That's why you supported Victor on those projects last year? I asked. Yes. He nodded. Just like you found in the company documents. Those collaborations gave Sioux Group a lot of advantages. But during that time, I got what I wanted too. I uncovered some of their financial secrets. Victor is arrogant and aggressive, too eager to prove himself by stealing our market share. That made it easy for me to get leverage on him. This past year, I've been quietly diversifying Lou Group's portfolio, expanding into food, entertainment, retail, spreading the risk. That way, even if I lose the cross-border sector, Lou Group will stand strong. So that's why he started the Judge dessert brand last year. Jenny, he sighed, was also a casualty in this arrangement. I could tell she was always impatient and disinterested when we went out. I even found out she had a passionate boyfriend during school. My initial plan was to just get engaged, hold Sioux Group steady, and ideally, settle everything before we actually got married. Then why did you marry me? I couldn't understand. He paused, then said softly, "Because I fell in love with you." He smiled. At first, everything I did for Jenny came from guilt for pretending. But after March 26th, 2020, I wasn't pretending anymore. I fell for you. I never expected it, but I walked right into it. I wanted to marry you, so that no matter what happened to Sue Group, you'd still be Mrs. Liu. You wouldn't be dragged down. If they ever tried to use you again, I'd be able to protect you. But I was torn, terrified that if Sue Group went down and you realized I was behind it, you'd hate me. After all, those people, they're your family. He gently touched my head. At one point, I even thought, forget it, maybe I should just give them half the market. What's so important about business anyway? I only have one wife. As long as we're okay, that's enough. Every night, watching you sleep, I was scared. I wanted to tell you the truth, but I just couldn't. He gave me a sheepish smile. Sounds dumb, doesn't it? I'd never known any of this. So when Jenny took you to meet me in a city, I was angry, but also strangely relieved. He said with a bitter laugh. Relieved that my wife wasn't actually Jenny. Because that way, at least, you wouldn't hate me for what I did to the Sue family. Silence fell. Honey, he turned to me, voice low. After hearing all this, do you still want to leave? I looked up, wrapped my arms around his neck, tears stinging the corners of my eyes. Why would I leave? I'm never leaving again. He hugged me tightly, then held up his hand with mock grievance. But you were ruthless. He pouted, waving his finger bandaged with a plaster. I had to make myself bleed before you believe me. Coffee couldn't fix my stomachache. You had to push me that far, didn't you? Still bringing up old debts. I wiped my eyes, slipped out of his arms, and went to get the fresh bandages I'd bought. The wound had nearly healed. Looking at him, I softly whispered, "Idiot." He leaned his forehead against mine, smiling. Just a fool for you. After spending 2 more days in a city, Martin and I returned to H City. About a week later, around noon, Jenny suddenly asked us to have lunch together. Jenny called. Martin frowned. She asked me to bring you two for lunch. Where? That new trendy restaurant near H City Hospital. H City Hospital? I understood immediately. She doesn't want lunch. I said softly. She wants to see someone. She wanted to see him, but not alone. When Martin and I came out of the office, Jenny's car was already parked by the curb. Julie, she greeted with a smile. I made a reservation at this place. It wasn't easy. I told Martin we have to bring you along. I smiled. Okay. The whole drive was quiet. None of us said a word. When we arrived at the restaurant and parked, Jenny suddenly asked, Julie, has your husband been discharged yet? No, I replied quietly. I had been visiting the hospital frequently and occasionally sent her recent photos of Oliver. She never replied. Martin. Jenny turned to him. Why don't we stop by to visit him? After all, he's been hospitalized for a while now. We haven't visited him once. Martin hesitated, then nodded. Sure. I was right, she didn't dare face Oliver alone. But bringing Martin and me along gave her an excuse if Justin ever found out. At the hospital ward, I opened the door. Oliver's hair, once shaved due to his injury, had started growing back. He looked clean and fresh in his striped hospital clothes, like a quiet, young student. You're here? He smiled up at us, but then froze for a moment upon seeing Jenny and me together. His gaze flicked between our faces. Then he looked directly at Jenny and said with a smile, Wife. Jenny's face went white. Her voice trembled as she forced a smile. Oh, you've mistaken me. I'm Julie's sister. Her hand clutched my sleeve, shaking. Julie. Julie is your. Sorry, Oliver said, smiling innocently. You two just look so alike. Jenny stood frozen in place. How are you feeling? I asked gently as I approached. I'm okay. He moved his arms slightly. Doctor says I'll be discharged in a few days. That's good, wife. He suddenly tugged at my sleeve, whispering, I heard the hospital cafeteria has soup dumplings. They're really good. Do you want some? I was startled. Huh? He chuckled. I can walk now. If you want some, I'll go grab you some later. All right? I glanced at Jenny and said softly, There's no water in your thermos. I'll go get some. He nodded. I walked to the end of the hallway, set the thermos down, and stared blankly out the window. Suddenly, bang! A door slammed nearby. Before I could react, someone grabbed me and pulled me into the stairwell. A familiar, overbearing presence overwhelmed me. I tried to push him. Someone might see. So what? He grumbled like a sulking child. Soup dumplings? He scoffed. He just wants to get beaten up again. I burst out laughing. I don't even like soup dumplings, I said, touching his furrowed brow. I only love eating omelets with ketchup, with you. The one who loved soup dumplings was someone else. When I returned to the room with the thermos, Jenny was just stepping out. Her eyes were red like a rabbit's, tears still glistening at the corners. If Martin calls, just tell him I had to leave early. I nodded. Okay. When I re-entered the ward, Oliver was sitting quietly on the bed. How did it go? I asked, sitting down beside him. I told her the truth, he said with a bitter smile. The door opened. Martin walked in. I told her, Oliver said calmly, that I never lost my memory. I was stunned. I told her I respect her decision. I won't chase after her anymore. The way we hurt each other in the past, thinking it was love, it wasn't right. I've died once already. In a way, I've thought it through. When I get discharged in a few days, I'll leave H City. Oliver never lost his memory. That day, after I called Jenny and returned to the ward, it was just the two of us. As I turned to leave, he gently grabbed my sleeve. Julie, he said quietly, I just want to see her one more time. The amnesia was only a shield, a way to protect himself. But even so, he still wanted to see her. That's how frightening obsession can be. He looked at Martin. That video, will it help? Martin walked over. You collapsed. But your phone recorded part of the scene. It's messy, but we captured their faces. The tech's good enough now. The police should be able to track them. And once they do, whoever was behind them won't be able to hide. Oliver nodded, then turned to me. Julie, thank you. Tomorrow, let's finalize the divorce. Can you even walk yet? Martin asked suddenly. Oliver blinked. Yeah, I can. Martin checked the time. Civil Affairs Bureau is still open. Let's go. Do it today. 3 days later, Jenny called me. Months had passed, and now here we were again, sitting in that same old white car. I don't want to be with Martin anymore. I said nothing. I just looked at her. Julie. She turned to me. Why don't we switch back again, please? What? I'll be Julia again. You be Jenny. We'll just pretend none of this ever happened. Sis. I cut her off. We're not switching back again. No, please, this time I won't ask you to switch again. I swear. Julie. I've really thought it through. I will never be Jenny again. She froze. Why? You love Martin, don't you? Before. You clearly. Julia is Julia. I shook my head. I'm not playing anyone else ever again. She stared at me, dumbfounded. I can't let him go. Julie. She sobbed. I knew I shouldn't have seen him. He's like a curse, just one look. And I can't walk away, if you can't let go. I said gently. Then go to him, as Jenny. What did you say? Her eyes were red and swollen. How could I possibly? Sis. I looked right at her. You need to learn how to face things yourself. You can't spend your whole life running away, or relying on others to get what you want. When you left with Oliver, that was avoidance. When you broke up and came back, still avoidance. And now, are you going to run away a third time? Do you even know what you really want? I'm not like you, she cried. No one ever taught me how to deal with problems. I don't know how. You do know. I held her gaze. We share the same blood. If I can, then so can you. I paused. But this time, neither I nor Martin will help you. She stared at me, blankly. Stop running. I said softly. Don't you get it yet? If love is built on a lie, on a role, on a performance, it will never last. I handed her a bag. Inside were the keys to the car and the apartment. These were never mine to begin with. I said, they're yours now. From now on, I only want what truly belongs to me. Do you think he'll still want me? She asked quietly, clutching the bag. You'll never know unless you try. I sighed. After all, real love can't be faked. Just like how Martin had recognized me at a glance in a city. Just like how Oliver had seen Jenny in an instant in that hospital room. Even if you have the same face, even if you've switched names, changed identities, the one who loves you will always know who you are. Think about it. I said. Oliver found a job as a layout editor at a magazine. He's leaving H City the day after tomorrow. She looked at me, stunned. You knew, sis. I looked up at the blue sky beyond the windshield. Deep down, you knew too. We were both wrong before. The one who loves you never gets it wrong. If it's love, don't leave it with regrets. A few days later, Oliver left. Martin and I went to see him off. Jenny didn't show up. She never returned to the Yungong apartment complex. Instead, she moved back in with our mother. A month later, trouble finally hit Sue Group. Thanks to Oliver's video, the police followed the trail to uncover a local criminal syndicate linked to Sue. Investigating the finances revealed even more problems. Martin sold off his shares in Sue Group. He was one of the major shareholders. As soon as the market sensed something was wrong, everyone else followed suit. Justin and Victor were both arrested. Sue Group officially entered bankruptcy proceedings. Sandra panicked and urged Jenny to go back to Martin and beg for help. She went back, but said to Martin, "Let's get a divorce." Martin had expected this. He simply looked at her and asked, "What do you want?" They signed the papers that day with a lawyer present. Jenny didn't ask for anything, only a one-way ticket to Q City. Q City, where Oliver had gone. 3 months later, I saw her again in the little park near Lou Group's headquarters. She had finished helping Sandra handle most of Sue Group's mess. Her skin was tanner now, her whole demeanor different. Though one old habit had returned, she was smoking again. She pulled out a cigarette. Mom couldn't accept Sue Group going under at first. After all, she was a rich wife for decades. I had to console her every day, like I was her therapist. Oh, and she glanced at me. Thanks for taking care of her those 2 weeks I was in Q City. I shook my head. After all, she was my birth mother too. Jenny seemed embarrassed. She said she heard you brought Dad to H City. And she wants to see him. She told me too. I said with a small smile. I asked Dad. He said enough time had passed. He's finally let go. He doesn't want to meet her again, just wants to live as strangers. Fair enough. She exhaled a thin stream of smoke. I'm going to Q City next week. Oliver still won't see me. She gave a faint smile tinged with bitterness. But I'm not giving up. Once, he chased her to H City. Now, she's chasing him to Q City. Julie, she said after a long silence. I've been meaning to say, for everything in the past. I'm truly sorry, and thank you. I shook my head. It's all in the past now. As I was leaving, I said, you should cut back on the smoking. She turned, tossed her new big curls, and grinned as she waved. Nope, I don't need to act for anyone anymore. Still as headstrong as ever. After she left, I sat on the bench, waiting for Martin. Not long after, he walked over holding a delivery box. What's this? I stood up to meet him. It came to the office today. He set it on the bench. From the translation contest organizers. I opened it. Inside was a trophy for first prize and an offer letter. So, he gently stroked my hair. Will you tell me now? What pen name did you use? You really don't know? I tilted my head with a smile. He pulled me into his arms, his voice soft and full of warmth. I know, but I want to hear you say it. I wrapped my arms around his neck, meeting his smiling gaze. MJ. MJ meant clear and bright, because true love, clear and bright, never mistakes who you are. End. Extra. Chapter 1. At 5 p.m. Martin Liu rushed home right after finishing a meeting. President Liu's been getting off work on time lately. Huh? Lisa asked Secretary Chan cautiously. Secretary Chan smiled and simply replied, President Liu values his family. As a competent secretary, he left the rest unsaid. What he really wanted to say was, Madam is 5 months pregnant now, and carrying twins. If she didn't constantly urge him to go to work, President Liu probably wouldn't even show up at the office. The fact that he was still occasionally seen in the company was already quite something. When Martin got home, he headed straight for the study. Sure enough, he found his wife at the desk. her belly visibly rounded. Still translating documents. After the Hannah Thomas translation competition, MJ's translation skills had gained unanimous praise from the judges. Julia had received offers from publishers and had already translated several collections of English poetry. "You're back?" Julia looked up and smiled as she heard the door. "Weren't you having dinner with your old classmates tonight? Why are you home?" she asked, starting to get up. "It's at 7, Martin said as he hurried to help her up. "Extremely careful. I couldn't eat in peace without seeing you first. No more work tonight." He domineeringly gathered up the books she had spread out on the desk. "Only play and rest allowed." She smiled sweetly. "Got it. Now go on." "I won't do anything tonight." She gave him a gentle push. "Aren't they your best friends from university? Don't keep them waiting." Martin nodded, but still stayed to watch Julia finish dinner before heading out to the restaurant right on time. Tang Ching was already there. "Congratulations." Tang Ching raised his glass with a smile. "You're going to be a dad." "Thanks." Martin clinked glasses with him. "Getting married really changes a guy." Tang Ching teased. "Your face practically screams I'm married and loving it." Martin chuckled. Tang Ching smiled again. "When's the due date?" "I need to prepare the red envelopes early, godfather duties." "Then you'll need 2. Martin replied with a grin. "Twins?" "Yeah. So it might come earlier than expected." Tang Ching laughed heartily. "You better brace yourself then. I heard even the parents can't tell some twins apart." The two chatted for a while longer, knowing Martin was thinking about his wife. Tang Ching didn't keep him too long, and they parted ways. Afterward, Martin stopped by Judge Dessert to pick up a cake for Julia. While waiting, his gaze drifted to a seat by the window in the shop. Tang Ching's words came back to him. Even parents can't tell some twins apart. He smiled and shook his head. Twins. Huh, it really was like that. 3 years ago, just after Martin had taken over the Lu Corporation, trouble struck. The company became embroiled in several contract disputes. The situation escalating quickly. "Someone's deliberately targeting us," Lu Sr. told Martin at the time. "All cross-border trade." Martin mused. "Right now in H City, the only one both wanting and able to compete with us in this space is probably the Su Corporation. Su Corporation has always played dirty," Lu Sr. said with a frown. "I heard Justin's sick and planning to retire before handing the company over to his son. He probably wants to eliminate us first. Some board members are already screaming about removing the management team." He added, "I bet Su Corp is stirring the pot behind the scenes. It won't be that easy for them to take us down." Martin said after thinking. "They're probably trying to negotiate terms." Lu Sr. was silent for a moment, then looked up. "What do you think we should do?" Father and son exchanged a look. "Go on the offensive," Martin said. So, the Lu family reached out to the Su family, proposing a business partnership. Business was like war. Everyone at the table was a seasoned player. After several rounds of negotiations, both sides had a clear idea of the other's bottom line. At one dinner, Justin brought Jenny along and said to Martin, "You young people should talk more." The Su family wanted to bind Lu Corp into a trade partnership through marriage. Essentially, they wanted half of Lu Corp's current market share. Despicable, typical Su style. Lu Sr. coughed in anger. "Back then, your Uncle Jin fell into Justin's trap too. It destroyed his family. After all these years, not only have I failed to get revenge for him, It's okay, Dad." Martin gently patted his back. "If marriage is the only way to keep Su Corp stable and buy us time, then so be it. If they strike now, we'll be badly hurt." So Martin began dating Jenny. He could sense her lack of interest. Jenny acted like a spoiled princess. She claimed her schedule was packed, and she could only meet once a week at most. Frankly, he preferred it that way. Still, even on days they didn't meet, he had someone deliver gifts to the Su house daily. He'd heard that Jenny had once had a whirlwind romance during school. He had no interest in the details. It was all a performance anyway, hers and his. If it ever came to marriage, they could always divorce after things settled down. They might not even have to go that far. An engagement might be enough to keep Su Corp in check. But then, Jenny was in a car accident. As her boyfriend, he naturally had to visit her in the hospital. He'd never forget that day, March 26th, 2020. He opened the hospital room door and saw a girl sitting weakly on the bed. She turned toward him, and their eyes met. He froze. Something felt off. But also, nothing seemed off. He continued dating Jenny as before. It was clearly still the same person. But somehow, after the accident, she seemed much more adorable. Adorable enough that he'd find himself staring at her in a daze. Adorable enough that he started looking forward to every date. One day, he bought her bubble tea. She pouted while biting the straw, grumbling softly, "I can't get the tapioca pearls through the straw." "Really?" He got up and moved to sit beside her. "Let me see." He meant to check the straw, but couldn't resist. Just as she looked up, he leaned in and kissed her. Her eyes widened in shock. She was too nervous to even breathe. He had to let go. Her face turned bright red as she bit her lip and whispered shyly, "What are you doing?" He stared at her shy, blushing face, and one thought echoed in his head, "Martin, you're screwed." He no longer wanted to think about anything else. He cupped her face and pressed a longer, deeper kiss onto her lips. 3 months later, they got married. On their wedding night, he gave her a blank diary. He couldn't really explain why, just that. Instinctively, he felt his new wife was hiding something in her heart. He didn't know if she still thought about that school days boyfriend of hers, but he couldn't bring himself to ask. And he didn't want to. He only hoped she wouldn't bottle everything up inside. Giving her the diary was his way of offering a place where she could confide her thoughts. A quiet outlet. Later, Justin's health forced him into retirement, and Victor took over as the head of the Sioux Corporation. Victor had been spoiled since childhood, arrogant, entitled, and famously untouchable in H-City. But unlike his father, he wasn't seasoned or shrewd. He acted recklessly, never heeding advice. And soon enough, business blunders piled up, without Martin even needing to intervene. Martin helped him fix them, one by one. Lou Sr. was puzzled and asked if it was because of Jenny. Martin shook his head. No, helping Victor had always been part of his plan. It was just like slowly boiling a frog, make him lower his guard. But Jenny had truly become his Achilles heel. He was afraid that, if he really carried out his plan against the Sioux family, he might lose her. He had already devised a way to protect her, no matter how badly the Sioux family fell. She would remain untouched. But would she hate him? At night, watching her peaceful sleeping face, he found himself thinking, more than once, maybe I should just let it go. So what if the Sioux family wanted half of Lou Corp's market share? Maybe he should just give it to them. She was his wife. He didn't want to take any risk of losing her. Lying awake at night, he recalled the history books he once read. He suddenly understood those ancient honey trap tactics, those generals who clearly knew the beautiful woman sent to them was a ploy from the enemy, yet still couldn't keep a clear head. He knew now exactly how that felt. This couldn't go on, so he left for a 2-month business trip abroad, partly to look for new international partners, and partly because he needed space to think, alone, and come up with a solution that could balance everything. 2 months later, he pushed through the schedule to come back a week early, just to spend their first anniversary together. But something about her felt off. It should have been an incredibly sweet night, yet he couldn't quite get into it. When he saw the faint disappointment in her eyes, he felt guilty. He pulled her gently into his arms, but deep inside, a strange feeling stirred. What was wrong? He couldn't say. She was clearly the same person. The nose, the eyes, the lips, everything was unchanged. And yet something felt wrong. A few days later, Jenny said she wanted to stay at her parents' house for a while. He didn't stop her. When a new Judge dessert shop opened, he went to visit the staff and unexpectedly saw her sitting by the window, eating cake. The moment their eyes met, he froze. The fire he'd been suppressing for 2 months surged up uncontrollably. He grabbed her hand and led her out. As soon as they got home and closed the door, he kissed her, unable to hold back anymore. Thank God, he thought to himself. There's nothing wrong. It was all just his imagination. He kept telling himself that. But the next morning, when he woke and saw the person lying beside him, that strange feeling returned again. He couldn't understand himself. It was clearly the same person. How could a single night make that odd feeling resurface? He felt like he was going insane. During office hours, as Secretary Chan came in to report, Martin listened in silence, then suddenly looked up and asked, "Secretary Chan, do you think something like soul swapping could exist in this world?" Secretary Chan looked utterly confused. Huh? Forget it. Martin waved it off. Thinking he truly must be losing his mind, he went to see a psychologist, who told him it was likely due to excessive stress. He started working overtime more and more. He found himself increasingly resistant to returning to the apartment at Yin Palace. He didn't want to go home. At first, Jenny kept messaging him, asking when he'd be off work, if they could have dinner together. But as his overtime became a daily routine, the messages dwindled, until one day, Jenny hesitantly told him she had a twin sister. She said she wanted to visit her in a city and asked him to go with her. The moment he opened the door to the private room, he recognized her instantly. He didn't even know what he was feeling. A tangled mess of emotions surged through him: anger, heartbreak, sorrow, relief. He was angry because all of this had been a carefully crafted deception, and he didn't know what role she had played in it. Heartbroken because the woman he had cherished so dearly had been caught in the scheme and humiliated. Sorrowful because even though she had seen him, she had said nothing, hadn't asked for help. And relieved, because if the one he loved wasn't Jenny, then perhaps all his worries about the Su family were no longer a problem. He knew he had to hold back. The Su family thought he didn't know, so he acted as if he didn't. But when he saw her slowly crouch down, red-eyed, picking up the clothes from the floor, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He stepped forward, took off his coat, and gently draped it over her, fighting the urge to pull her into his arms. He said a few words to Jenny and then turned and left the room. He didn't know what game the Su family was playing, sending a fake Jenny into his life, only to now go to great lengths to switch them back. He could only play along for now. On the way to buy food, all he could think about was, had she been coerced by the Su family? Did she have secrets she couldn't speak? But if he was her lover, her husband, why wouldn't she come to him, even under duress? She'd had countless chances to tell him. Did she not trust him to protect her? She left just like that, so cleanly, without hesitation. Even that one brother-in-law she uttered was flat, emotionless. He began to question, had she ever truly loved him during the past year? If she was just a pawn the Su family had planted at his side, no wonder she had walked away so easily. Because she didn't love him. From beginning to end, the only one who had fallen was him. Could that really be true? He asked himself, but he had no answer. He arrived at a restaurant. When ordering, he told the server, "I'd like stir-fried chili pork with egg." The server blinked in surprise. Huh? With egg? He nodded. That was their little secret. He'd always known she loved stir-fried chili pork, but it made her heady, so she never dared to indulge. Once, when he tried cooking it for her, he accidentally cracked an egg into the dish. The result looked like a disaster, but she'd eaten it with such delight. Chili pork with egg, she had said while eating and laughing. It's delicious, and I'm the only one who gets to taste this version. At the hospital, when the three of them had a meal together, he had deliberately placed that dish in front of her. She didn't react at all, just suddenly said she wanted to work at Su Corporation. He had disagreed in his heart. Whatever her reason, Su Corp was too dangerous for her. Just then, Jenny had shown a hint of discomfort, and Martin seized the moment to suggest she come work at Lu Corp instead. His argument was sound, and even Jenny had no words to refute him. No matter what she had done, or planned to do, keeping her close, under his protection, gave him peace of mind. After she joined Lu Corp, he finally confirmed something. She did have feelings for him. If she hadn't, she wouldn't have made porridge for him. She wouldn't have shown such instinctive concern when he clutched his stomach in pain. She wouldn't have fled in panic when he teasingly asked her to feed him. But she still wouldn't acknowledge him. When Secretary Chan told him that Julia was going to the hospital to visit Oliver, Martin's temper flared almost instantly. She won't even acknowledge her own husband who walks past her every day, but she's going to care for that man like he's her real husband? You go with her, Martin had told Chan. Once she signs the forms, have her return to work immediately. No unnecessary delays. But in the end, she didn't return with Secretary Chan. Chan reported that Oliver had woken up, and she had stayed behind at the hospital. That day, Martin finished work early. No business dinner, no social engagements, a rare free evening. But he didn't leave. He didn't even know what he was waiting for. He knew full well, she wouldn't be coming back to the office today. But she came back. As he passed by the admin office, he happened to catch sight of her, leaning on the desk, staring blankly out the window. Almost involuntarily, he went downstairs and bought her a hot coffee. While waiting in line, he chuckled at himself bitterly. He felt like a concubine vying for affection, ridiculous and childish. But still, he just wanted her to care about him. Just a little, just a moment of her heart aching for him would be enough. Finally, as the coffee was nearly gone, he heard the words he'd been aching to hear. "I heard," she said softly, eyes lowered. "People with bad stomachs shouldn't drink too much coffee." In that instant, all the anger and frustration he'd built up throughout the day vanished into thin air. He faced away from her, lips curving into a smile, but when he turned back, he deliberately wiped that smile off his face. "Oh, who told you that?" he asked casually. She lowered her head again. "Someone." On the drive back to a city, she sat quietly, looking out the window without saying a word. She didn't speak, and neither did he. He felt like a sulking child, immature and laughable, but he still wanted her to admit it first. At the rest stop, she fell asleep. He gently draped his jacket over her shoulders before going to buy burgers, specially requesting no green peppers. She hated green peppers. When he returned to the car, she was still asleep. "Wife," he whispered, gently brushing her hair, his voice laced with a vulnerability even he didn't realize he had. "Why won't you recognize me yet?" That night at the old Yi family house, he'd woken from the heat and gone to the closet to find a thinner blanket. Instead, a pile of papers had tumbled out. The next morning, he discovered they were her certificates and awards. He turned them over one by one, listening to her calmly mention dropping out of school, and his heart ached with sorrow. She went to make breakfast, and as he watched her back, he suddenly had the urge to walk up behind her and hug her, just like before. But when he approached, he stopped just short. At the hospital, he had looked her father in the eye and called him dad. And still, she had shown no intention of acknowledging him. Frustrated and stifled, he bought a bottle of beer and drank more than half. She said nothing to stop him, just quietly went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. He walked over to help her, but the moment he picked up the knife, he changed his mind. A gentle slice, hiss, and blood welled up from his fingertip. That finally made her panic. She grabbed his hand, eyes brimming with tears, frantically searching for a band-aid. As he looked at her face full of worry, his heart aching for him, he couldn't hold back any longer and pinned her against the wall. "No," he told himself. "Martin, don't do it. Not yet. She hasn't acknowledged you. Sorry." He took a step back, voice low. "Guess I drank too much. Thought you were someone else." He cast his eyes down and turned quietly away. "Martin," her trembling voice called from behind, thick with tears. He closed his eyes, the corners burning. She had no idea how much pain he endured, waiting for her to recognize him. His long-restrained feelings finally broke loose. He turned around and held her tightly, kissed her fiercely. "What else?" he kept asking her, again and again. She wept, face streaked with tears, and wrapped her arms around him. And finally, he heard her call out those two words. The two words he had waited so long, so painfully, to hear. His thoughts came rushing back. He was already standing at his own front door. "Honey?" Julia stirred from her recline on the sofa, smiling as she walked toward him. "You're back already?" He looked at her gentle, peaceful face and thought there was nothing in the world that could compare to her smile. Smiling, he held up the small cake in his hand. "Yeah, I'm back, wife." Chapter 2. That morning, just as Oliver wrapped up his work, the front desk receptionist came over with a cheerful grin. "Oliver G.E. That Sue girl is here again. She brought this milk tea for you." Oliver paused for a second, then took the drink with a polite smile. "Thanks." Attached to the cup was a tiny greeting card, a crooked doodle of a little flower drawn on it, with a few handwritten words. "Get some rest. Don't overwork yourself." The receptionist peeked over curiously. "Oliver G.E. You really don't want to see her? That Sue girl's been coming by on and off for over half a year now." She was absolutely dying of curiosity. The handsome layout designer in front of her had joined the publishing house about a year ago. Clean-cut and good-looking, with real talent. Word was, he used to be a painter, but after injuring his right hand, his work was affected, so he switched careers. He'd even done his video interview with the company from a hospital bed. Even so, the leadership had hired him on the spot. When he first arrived, the friendly office aunties had wasted no time poking around to see if he had a girlfriend. He said he didn't, but also made it clear he wasn't looking. For a while, the question of why Oliver didn't date became the juiciest gossip in the office. Single, talented, handsome, and kind, how could a guy like that stay off the market? What a waste. At one office dinner, a girl who secretly had a crush on him tried to get him drunk, but he never drank. Someone asked if he was allergic to alcohol. He simply smiled and said 2 words. Quit already. Gradually, the girls gave up. Everyone figured, no one's cracking the code on this handsome editor. Until one day, a girl showed up downstairs. That evening, they were about to leave work and debating hot pot when they saw a girl waiting at the entrance of the publishing house. Eyes red as she looked at Oliver. Oliver. Her soft voice immediately reignited everyone's gossip flame. But Oliver calmly walked over, exchanged a few quiet words with her, and then rejoined his co-workers for hot pot. So calm it left everyone a little stunned. You think Oliver GE might be a player? Could be. I mean, she looked like that and he didn't even blink. A bold one asked Oliver directly. He just paused slightly and replied matter-of-factly that it was his ex. They'd already broken up, but everyone thought this ex came by way too often. Oliver never met her, and yet she never pushed. She just came, dropped off little things, and left. No one knew what she was after. That evening, as Oliver cleared his desk, he caught sight of the milk tea from earlier. He picked up the cup and touched the little flowers she'd drawn, his thoughts drifting. It all started back in his sophomore year. He'd fallen for a girl from the Chinese literature department, Jenny. His best buddy slung an arm around him, trying to talk him down. Bro, you're picking hard mode here. That girl's got a fan club. She's beautiful, but cold, hard to chase. Her little nose is so high it's practically pointing at the sky. Is that so? Oliver grinned, revving his motorcycle. Well, I like a challenge. He started a post on the school BBS, drawing one picture of Jenny every day and uploading it. The campus heartthrob from the art department chasing the belle of the Chinese department, it was the talk of the university. Jenny stormed up to him, furious. What are you trying to do? Chase you? Chase me? She blushed. You didn't have to let the whole school know. This is what? He said with a roguish grin. This way, I eliminate the competition before it even gets started. Her face turned scarlet. She struggled for a bit, then finally squeezed out 2 words. Shameless. What's shameless about openly pursuing the person I like? He asked, deliberately. She couldn't argue with him, stomped her foot in frustration, and ran off. Their departments weren't far apart. After that, he had a classmate deliver milk tea to her every time she had class. There was always a small card attached, with one of his drawings. Jenny confronted him again. Stop sending me milk tea. I don't even like it. Oh, then what do you like? He replied with a cheeky grin. Whatever it is. It's none of your business. Really? He pretended to ponder. Then how come I heard you kept all those little cards I drew? Jenny froze, cheeks instantly flushing. She realized he'd even bought off her roommates. Jenny. Oliver took a step toward her. Do you like me? I don't. She shot back instantly. Oh. He held out his hand. Then give me back the drawings. You. Her lips trembled as she backed into a corner. Can't bear to part with them? Who says I can't? She was on the verge of tears. Then give them to me. Who takes back things they've given away? She mumbled in frustration. Are you even a man? Oliver blinked, then chuckled. You don't like me, so why keep my drawings? Planning to show them to your future boyfriend? Jenny's eyes widened. She had no comeback. All right, he said, taking a step back with a smile. I won't tease you anymore. You think you can just stop because you feel like it? She wiped at her tears. You mess with someone and it's just over? What do you want me to do then? Oliver laughed. After a moment of thought, he said, I heard the soup dumplings at the second cafeteria are amazing. You have to line up early just to get them. Want some? Jenny blinked. How do you know She quickly stopped herself and raised her voice. Who wants soup dumplings? Oliver just looked at her and smiled. After class, he went straight to line up for dumplings. When he finally got them, he handed them to her and said with a grin, "If I get you soup dumplings every day for a month, will you be my girlfriend?" Jenny's eyes went wide. What are you talking about? He nodded and cut her off. Then it's a deal. 1 month later, he drew a picture on the stone wall outside the girls' dormitory. Under blue skies and white clouds, a girl sat joyfully on the back seat of a boy's motorcycle, carefree and radiant. He stood in the center of the drawing and shouted up at the dorm windows, "Jenny, it's been a month, come down and be my girlfriend." The romantic confession didn't end the way he imagined. A student affairs teacher cut through the crowd, marched up to Oliver with a loudspeaker, and delivered a stern public scolding. The teacher said he was defacing campus property and ordered him to clean the pavement and restore it to its original state. That evening, while Oliver was bent over, scrubbing away at the ground, a slender hand reached out and took the mop from him. Art department genius? Jenny raised a brow. Not that great a drawing, honestly. And just like that, Jenny became his girlfriend. His friends had warned him Jenny was too spoiled, too proud, too much of a princess. But he liked her just the way she was, and he was willing to spoil her. No matter what happened, he would put up with her. They became the most eye-catching couple on campus, talented and beautiful, openly affectionate, not caring what others thought. It was the happiest time of his life. But after graduation, Jenny came to him in tears, telling him her father was forcing her into a political marriage with the Liu family. "What should I do, Oliver? I don't want to marry Martin, I don't like him at all. I only want to marry you. It's the 21st century. Who still forces marriages like this?" He couldn't understand. "You don't get it," Jenny cried, shaking her head. "No one can go against my father." Some time later, Jenny told him she had found a way. "Oliver, did you know I have a twin sister? She's in a city." He went with her to a city and met Julia. At first, Oliver was firmly against Jenny's plan. "This is insane," he said, shaking his head. "How could you switch places and expect no one to notice?" "Why not try?" Jenny insisted. "We look exactly the same. As long as Mom doesn't notice, and Martin barely knows me, Dad and Victor hardly pay attention to me either. They won't know." "But isn't this unfair to Julie?" "What's unfair about it?" Jenny looked genuinely confused. "I'm giving her money, a better life, even a rich husband. Isn't that better than whatever messy life she had before?" Oliver went silent. From a material standpoint, being a Sioux heiress and Liu family's young madam was indeed beyond Julia's reach. "Jenny," he held her hand, "are you really willing to give all this up for me?" "Yes." Jenny nodded, eyes firm. "Oliver, I want to be with you. We have to be together." Yes, she was willing to give up everything just to be with him. If Julia agreed, maybe this really was fate's best arrangement. Later, Jenny and Julia switched identities, and he took Jenny away from H City. "You told her you were pregnant and had a miscarriage?" he asked, startled. Jenny pouted. "I had to make myself sound pitiful. Otherwise, how would Julie agree to help me?" Looking back now, he sometimes wondered if only he hadn't indulged her in everything, maybe none of the chaos that followed would have happened. That night, in the middle of the night, Jenny had a sudden craving for soda, so he took her out to buy some. While he was inside the 24-hour convenience store, Jenny waited outside and ran into 3 drunken local thugs. By the time he came out, they had her pinned to the ground, and Jenny was screaming for help. He charged forward and threw a punch at the leader, taking on all 3 in a desperate fight. In the chaos, one of them picked up a brick and smashed it down on his right hand. Hearing the commotion, the store clerk called the police. The 3 attackers fled. Oliver sat on the ground, holding the trembling, sobbing Jenny in his arms, completely drained. After that night, he never drew again. He had once been a proud, spirited young artist, full of dreams and ambition, but that sudden, devastating injury shattered everything for both of them. He had always believed he'd spend his life as an artist. Now, he didn't even know what he could do next. And slowly, he began to doubt himself. Had he made the wrong choice? He couldn't do anything except paint. What kind of future could he give Jenny? Dragging her away so recklessly? Jenny was even more anxious than he was. She pestered him constantly to find a job, even submitting resumes online on his behalf. But all of it just made him feel more agitated. He started drinking. The frustration and resentment bottled inside him grew monstrous under the influence of alcohol. Drunk, he smashed things violently, aimlessly, as if that was the only way to feel anything at all. Jenny was terrified. They began to argue constantly, then make up, then argue again. Finally, after a night where he was hospitalized for alcohol poisoning, she left a letter by his bedside and disappeared. He remained in the hospital for a full month before returning to H City to find her. He never imagined she'd give up on him so easily, never thought she'd switch identities back so quickly. He was unwilling to accept it. Even if they were to break up, he needed to see her one more time, properly. He gave Jenny 7 days, said if she didn't come see him, he would tell Martin everything about the identity swap from a year ago. But after 5 days, there was still no word from her. Crushed and bitter, he drank again, a lot. That night, drunk and staggering alone through the streets, he pulled out his phone, blurry-eyed, trying to call Jenny. Then, sudden pain. Someone struck him from behind. When he woke up, he was in a hospital bed, his body covered in bruises. The doctor asked how he was feeling. He shook his head. I don't remember anything. The one who came to visit him was Julia. He'd planned to pretend to have amnesia in front of everyone, fearing those people might come after him again. But Julia, she was his last hope of seeing Jenny one more time. Julie, he grabbed her sleeve gently. I just want to see her again, one more time. Julia was silent for a long time before quietly responding. You're still like this, and you still want to see her? Was it her? He asked. Julia shook her head. It was her father, Justin. He exhaled deeply. I just want to see her one last time. In the end, Julia agreed. I can't promise she'll come, she said softly, but if she still has you in her heart, I believe she will. Julie, thank you. When I'm discharged, whether she comes or not, I'll go with you to finalize the divorce. Julia nodded. I'm sorry, Julie, he said earnestly. I shouldn't have dragged you into this mess. He waited for days. 3 days before discharge, Jenny came. When it was just the two of them, she kept her head low, lips trembling, not saying a word, too afraid to even look at him. Jenny, he said softly, I never lost my memory. Jenny's eyes widened. She looked up at him, stunned. I just wanted to see you one last time, whether it's to break up or part forever. I just wanted to see you again and say goodbye properly. 3 days after his discharge, he left for Q City. She didn't come to see him off. But this time, he felt no sorrow, no bitterness, only calm. In the year he worked at the publishing house, every night was a reflection. He wanted to become better, not reckless, not impulsive. He wanted to mature. He wanted to become someone who could protect the one he loved, no matter what. And he could tell, Jenny was trying. 3 months ago, Julia had messaged him. Jenny had moved to Q City with her mother and was now working at a digital media company. He knew that company was right next door to the publishing house. Every time she came by, except for the first encounter, she never asked to see him again. She would wait downstairs, leave something with the receptionist, and quietly leave. Milk, tea, coffee, snacks, each with a small note. The notes shared little pieces of her life and work. My boss praised my writing today. I'm so happy. One of my articles hit 100,000 views yesterday. I was thrilled. I cooked dinner today. Mom said it was delicious. The client scolded me today, but I held my ground with clear arguments. I was proud. She was no longer the spoiled, arrogant little princess. She was slowly becoming mature, steady, and brave. Maybe neither of them had become the best version of themselves just yet, but at least they were both working toward it. With that thought, Oliver gently removed the little card from the milk tea cup and tucked it into the left pocket of his shirt. Just as he stepped out of the building, he saw her. Jenny was leaning against a tree in front of the building, wearing a white dress, lost in thought. Hearing footsteps, she looked up, saw him, and took a tiny step forward, then stopped herself. This time, He didn't walk the other way like he used to. He walked straight toward her. Jenny looked utterly stunned. It's an ugly drawing, he said quietly. She froze for a beat, and in that instant, her eyes turned red. I have no taste. You know that. She sniffled, voice wobbling. If you don't like it, give it back, she said, sulking. Have you eaten yet? He asked. Wah? Jenny stared at him in disbelief, eyes instantly brimming with tears. Not yet, she muttered, turning her face away as she wiped her eyes. Come on, he said, gently taking her trembling hand. I'll treat you to soup dumplings.